Okay.
Okay, I call this meeting to order. If we will wait just a minute, and I will wait for Jamie to give me the nod that you're hooked up, and then we will do the pledge allegiance. We're ready? If you'll stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, for your information, Liz Richards, our Assistant Superintendent, will be joining us via Zoom. Tammy will not be here. She was in Nebraska visiting her mother, and I received a text today that her father-in-law just passed away. So she will not be here for a while. Okay, we're meeting here today on report on the progressive American Indian students. Mr. Hart, would you like to start, or would you like first?
Sure.
Do we know everybody? Do we need to introduce? Okay. Cindy, we'll start with you.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Eldridge. I'm the Executive Director of Human Resources for Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1.
I'm Amelia Joe Chandler, Yate. Chair Amelia Joe Chandler, I'm the liaison and coordinator for RE1 district.
I am Trina Lee. I'm the district student targeted coordinator, also the ELL coordinator and Title VI director.
Hi there. I'm Dr. Risha Vanderway. I'm the superintendent for Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to be here. And thank you for allowing us to work with a lot of your kids. And thank you for everyone here who's listening. We really appreciate your time and value your time here.
I'm Jeff Wilson. I'm the truancy officer for Toya. And also I fill in for Tina on K-12 if she's unavailable.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Whitehead. I'm the K-12 caseworker. Tina apologizes she cannot make it, but she wishes us good luck. So.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Linda Wall, Human Tribal Council.
Good evening. My name is Selwyn Whitestrunk. I am Vice Chairman of the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, as well as the Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Education Liaison to the tribe.
Hello, good evening to everyone. My name is Manuel Hart. I'm the Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Chairman. Thank you.
I'm Deborah Ramsey. I'm the secretary to the superintendent of schools and to the school board here at RE1.
I'm Sherry Wright. I'm president of the school board, and I welcome all of you.
My name is Sherry Noyes, and I'm the vice president of the school board. Thank you for coming tonight.
My name is Stacy Hall. I'm a District D representative for the school board, and thank you all.
Cody Wells. I am the district director A for the school board.
And I'm Jim Barr. I'm the executive director of academic student services, and I will be presenting a lot of the information we're seeing tonight.
We have protests going on, and they are very polite and gracious to us. So they have that right. Yes,
Do you mind if I do introduce the beginning of this? Is that okay?
That Mr. Hart, is that okay with you? Okay.
Thank you. So first of all, I just wanted to say, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, my name is Dr. Risha Vanderway, and it is our pleasure to have this presentation on the IPP, which is Indian Policies and Procedures that we provide here at Montezuma-Cortez School District RE1. We serve a little bit over 700 Native American kids. Some are Ute, some are Navajo, and we represent a lot of other tribes. And so this is a very important part of not only our educational system, but our extracurricular opportunities that we provide to our Native American community. I hope that some of you were here earlier and able to see the slideshow that we had, because it was completely, in my opinion, adorable. Because it shows our kids here, it shows what they do, it shows them engaging in our schools. And we really work hard, and we strive to communicate with the tribes. We try to provide the best educational experience that we can, and we work really hard to serve you all. So I want to say thank you. We do have a bulky presentation for you as we move along. Please let us know if you have any questions, because we're going to go slide through. We're going to go slide by slide. So if you have any questions as we progress, please just ask them. If not, jot them down and save them for the end. But you know, I don't know if anyone wants to speak before we start the presentation. So we can't take comments from the crowd, I'm sorry. Is there anyone who wants to say something before we start?
I just have a letter from the education department to hand out. Is that okay?
Yeah, please. Do you want me to hear? Do you want me to hand it out since I'm up?
Thank you.
Yeah. Do these all have them?
I don't know if Manuel printed his off. Might want to get it anyway.
I'll just start down this way. Yeah, this is the one you sent out earlier. Thank you. Yeah, with a wire.
Dr. Vanderway, we've always allowed the Native Americans to speak if they have a question.
Okay. Did everyone hear that? Ms. Wright indicated that anyone who is Native population is able to speak during this, so I apologize. This is my first one here.
Thank you.
We're all good.
Okay. Is it you first?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, everyone. One thing I would like to acknowledge as well, all of our principals from all of our schools are here as well. So Katie Nelson from Kemper, back there. Angie Sock is not able to be with us. Whitney Rapp from Manal. Robert Lehman from Mesa. Drew Pearson from middle school. And Eric Chandler from the high school is here as well. So appreciate them coming out. So as Dr. Vanderway stated, this is a pretty bulky report, so we want to give it its due diligence. And if you do have questions, please just let me know, and we'll stop at that point in the presentation and try and provide the information that you need. Everyone should probably have this packet as well. It's the same presentation as we're going to see up here. So a couple things to note. When you look around the room, you might notice that there's some maybe unfamiliar faces. Our administrative team has pretty much changed from those that have been here for a number of years. So we have a new superintendent, new director of human resources. Liz Richards, our assistant superintendent, is new to us as well. I have been with the district for 21 years, but this is my first year in this particular role. And so it's a pleasure to be here to do this, to share this with you. And we're excited about going forward. So the first page is the context of this year's report. We have the table of contents and then the context. Within this report, we're going to see state tests, district tests, athletics and activities, attendance and discipline data, along with the parent survey that was conducted. So, sharing some of the duties with me this evening on this presentation will be Ms. Trina Lee and Ms. Amelia Jo Chandler as well. So, as we get started, so our district demographics, look like this. As far as the breakdown, 27% of students in the district are Native American. Data is broken down by tribe when available. Now, throughout this presentation, further breakdown is not always possible from some of the data that we receive, because some of the data that we get comes from state levels, and at the state level, they don't always break it down specifically by tribes. But so just keep in mind that some things that you see may not be specific to our Navajo tribe or Ute Mountain Ute tribe. It's just that's how we receive our data. Data that is not available by tribe is identified as Native American and non-tribal affiliated. The category of non-tribal affiliated includes Hispanic, white, and all other ethnic bases. So as you can see with our pie chart here, our Native American population is 27%, so it represents this much of the students that we see in our district on a day-to-day basis. Let's start looking at some academic data. So some of the tests that we'll be talking about are our Colorado Measures of Academic Success, or Cmass is what it's more affectionately known as. Our district interim assessments, DIBS, which is ELA for primary grades, English Language Arts testing for primary grades, and PSAT and SAT for our high school students. And so what each one of these does is, first of all, within our chart, because of the COVID year that we have just experienced, in certain cases, data is not readily available for everything that we have. Because of state testing being irregular, it didn't happen in the normal way that we would on a regular basis. Not every grade level was tested with all of the academic areas. So data for certain testing may or may not be available. We've compiled what we have available within this report, but where it's not available, I will note that and let you know. So our Colorado Measures of Academic Success, we do have achievement data, but our growth data is from 2018 and 2019, so it's not the most recent. Our language arts, what does this measure? It's language arts, math, and science. Does it measure achievement? Yes. Does it measure growth? Yes. These are tested grades 3 through 8, and they alternate grades, and we'll be talking more about that. And the assessments determine if students are meeting grade level standards or progressing towards proficiency. Our district interim assessments, we have data for last year, 2020, 2021. These measure language arts, math, science, and social studies. Does it measure achievement? Yes, but it does not measure growth. These assessments are for K-12, and it's utilized to group students and plan instruction and monitor student progress towards Colorado academic standards. Our Dibs testing, again, we do have data for 2020, 2021. This is language arts. It does measure achievement. It does not measure growth. This is for grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And assessment is utilized to monitor younger students' progress in early literacy. And PSAT and SAT are 2020, 2021, measure achievements. We have growth for 2018 and 2019. It's a language arts and math. Again, it does measure achievement and growth. It's for grades 9 through 11, and the assessment is used to determine if students are prepared for college ready. Students utilize the assessment to apply for college in many cases.
And then do any of you have questions about any of the language or the terms, such as interim assessments, or there's a lot of academic language here, and I just want to be clear that you understand what you're hearing. So if there's any question on this page, because it's the beginning of the data that we pull to identify the needs, and the academic experiences that the kids that we're serving have. So are there any questions about that? Because it is pretty technical. No, you're all good? Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
Okay, fine. So just a couple additional notes on our state testing, which is probably what we'll be looking at first here. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, last year, Colorado Measures of Academic Success, the state test for Colorado, these tests were not administered in the spring of 2020 due to coronavirus pandemic. The state reduced the amount of testing requirements. Districts were required to test alternate grades as follows. Reading and writing were only tested at 3rd, 5th, and 7th grade. And mathematics was tested at 4th, 6th, and 8th grade. In a normal year, everybody would be taking all of those tests. But last year, due to some of the complications with the pandemic, the state chose to reduce the testing for a variety of reasons. So, excuse me. So alternate grade administration impacts include fewer scores in our data, meaning we don't have as much data for certain areas. Reading and writing scores for grade 4 compared to grades 3 through 5 in previous years. In this report, there are specific instances of data representing minimal students, meaning less than 15. In these instances, data is omitted for privacy purposes. So if we have a number that is less than 15 students, we can't literally report it out because it would be too easy to determine who those students are. And likewise, we will be lacking some growth data from Cmass for this last year because of, and for PSAT and SAT from the spring 2021. We do not have this updated growth. These data rely on consecutive testing years, and the growth data that in this report for student growth is based on 2018, 2019. So achievement in language, arts, and math. Our achievement data tells us whether individual students have met grade level standards. Achievement data tells us what percentage of students are meeting grade level standards in a school and across the district. What achievement data is presented in this report is data showing what percentage of students are meeting and not meeting grade level standards in elementary school and in grades 6 through 8 in language arts and math based on state Cmass PSAT and PSAT for grades 9 and 10. Data showing comparisons of Native American students to non-tribal students, along with data showing achievement of Navajo and Ute Mountain Ute students specifically. Right.
Can I,
Yes, sir.
can I say something? I've read the report, and my name is Selwyn Whiteskunk, Vice Chairman of the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe. And I've read this report, and it's really, for me, it's really bothersome to somewhat gauge the American Indian student in this report here because of the lack of per pupil in the school that were tested. It has to be inconclusive. And I say that because the report in itself is very minimal for our people, the Ute Mountain Ute students. I've looked at this. I don't want to look at it because it bothers me because it has the Ute Mountain Ute student at a really low percentile of achievement, of meeting the requirement. And to have this in front of the leaders of the tribe, the educators of the tribe, it's bothersome. It really is. because I don't see any achievement. I don't see a progression of what our students can achieve. What it does, it just, it doesn't see, for me, any encouraging report that our students are achieving. It's really something. And reading just that first part of that what you were, the data, what it stands for, the acronyms and everything that's there. It bothers me because of how the report without a whole complete data. You know, I sit here. We have a position letter. The Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Council has a position letter that after this session's over, I would like to read that. I would like to read that. I would also like to read the responsibility of this school district that you have to follow. It's under Title 34, Section 222-94. And in it, it's what are the responsibility of the local education agencies, the LEE, with regards to the Indian policy and procedure. It lays out what the school district has to follow. It lays out how the tribe should be engaged. The parents should be engaged in providing an adequate learning system for our American Indian students, particularly in this case, the Ute Mountain Ute children that come from our reservation. There are members of the audience that are parents that may have concerns. But for myself here as an elected official, it disappoints me. It really disappoints me with how it's being reported with an incomplete data. If you read this, if you look at it, it really bothers me. It bothers me in the sense that the numbers, the graphs in this document that you go through, all of those from K through 12, from our high school students, how we prepare them for their future educational opportunities, as well as from the middle school to high school to freshmen, from our youngsters from K through 5th, the report that is there. And in my sense, in my way that I see it and how I read it, I hate to say this, but it's very discriminatory. I don't agree with it. And having this time for the tribe, for the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, I have to say that. I have to be honest with what this is presented to us. We have a difficult time of justifying it in the legislation, a congressional legislation. The responsibility of this district, our E1 district, to provide a worthwhile education to our students, our tribal members, is very hard to understand. I say that because that's what it shows me. That's what's presented in front of me. When I read the legislation and what the RE1 district is doing for our students, for our parents, it hasn't met the IPP legislation. I have to say it. And how do you change it? Is what the legislation is written. It's a congressional law, the federal law. And at this time, it's bothersome. It's not something that I approve of, but I'm gonna let you continue.
Okay.
I would. Mr. Whitescomb, I agree with you 100%. When I read these numbers, I was devastated. And I know that you told me at one of the council meetings that we held that you've been national IPPs. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And I guess at this point, I'm only board president for another month or so, but I would like to have advice on how to improve. And if it means that I need to go to Toyok to work with you personally, I will be more than happy to. But I agree that we have got to do something, that we've got to change it. I have sat here for many years going through this, and it hasn't changed. And when I talked to Tina, she agreed with me, but I don't know how to change it. And so I'm asking you for advice.
And if it's okay,
If you would allow me to come and visit with you, I would very much appreciate it.
I would be more than honored to share.
And you have my telephone number, and so call me when you have time, please.
and can we go together? That's right,
Absolutely.
then.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm shocking as well, because being a parent is pretty hard at times because you live in two worlds. I'm not trying to find an excuse, but education is key of everything in life. And I do agree with my fellow vice chairman, because at times it can be excruciating information. I do work with the children, higher education. I do work with the high school day-to-day basis, and I've seen a lot of information that wasn't irrelevant for me. I was uncomfortable, but I always give individuals a benefit of doubt, because we're gearing towards success of education. How we're going to get there is we're working together. I think
Yeah, I agree.
you said the magic word is by coalition together and making it work. Come down to our reservation, to come here and communicate and make this a masterpiece.
Because when I read this, I got it last night. I sat down and read it, and at 10 o'clock I went to bed. I went to some really prayed, because
And also
my
goes,
heart when I read this, and I think that we need to do collaboration and get this fixed.
and I'm reaching out to you, Sherry. You came on several occasions when we had a divisional meeting, and I appreciate that. That's a sign of good faith, fellowship, and going forth with it as well. I'm reaching out to you, the board as well, to come down and join us, and we'll sit down as well as we come up and sit down and make it become a unique, so we can see some good objectives that we might meet. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, so if you will give me a call, and I will work with Dr. Vanderway, and so that the two of us and other board members, if they choose to, can come and meet with you, and let's get this worked out. I don't want another year like this. So, Mr. Whitesman, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and the knowledge and the background you have is going to be valuable to us moving forward. But could I have the statute again, because I was busy listening and not writing?
It's Title 34, Section 222-94.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I will read it so that I can be knowledgeable. Yes, sir.
I've worked with a lot of these students that have, to me, it seems like this report is not only looking at the kids, but it's also looking at the way you engage different groups. I've worked with a lot of these students that have come in, they've been bending in that. Once I worked with them a certain way. Mainly I worked in math, and they've ended up enjoying math and that.
Right.
I think a lot of the problem too, when we're looking at this, let's not look just at the students, but are we looking for ways to engage every group that is meaningful to them? You know, I mean, we tend to, the system has been set up to tend to teach European type teaching all the time. That European literature, everything from the European viewpoint, athletics, or even European. I mean, so stuff, kids stay in school because they enjoy it. But if you're not offering them something that keys to their culture also, the way of athletics and the way of art, if you're not looking at their age and the difference in the way of thinking, I found like working with the students with math, getting them to think of it as, if you don't get that problem, it's like playing games. You don't beat the big boss the first time, every time you try different things. So I think, to me, I think it's the way you're engaging. And I think when we look at this report, we should also look at it through the lens of, are we failing to engage every group in a way that would interest them and make them want to stay in school? Because we've got quite a few of our students who wander away from the school. Why? Why isn't there something that makes them want to stay here? And then we've also got to look into other things that affect the students' learning ability. You know, we talked about adverse childhood experiences and how that affects and different things like that. So, I mean, I don't know how much training there's been on adverse childhood experiences and how to deal with people like that. My background was in a state institution in Montana for 27 years, working with people that had learning disabilities. A lot of it came from the way they were raised, as far as what they had to deal with as they were growing up. So I think that's one thing too, that when we're looking at this report, is this a report on the students, or is it also a report on and a reflection on the school needs to look at how they're keying their educational experience towards these students?
Would you like to continue?
Yeah. So to your points, I cannot argue with what you're saying. I do think that when we look at presentations such as this, it's a look in the mirror as much as it is a look at our students. So I think your point is well taken. And I would say that we are obligated to share this with you in this manner. So, you know, I certainly am not trying to offend, but it's the data that we have that I have to present to you. So, so we'll continue with that. I will also say, though, that there is another kind of component of this that isn't well represented in this data either, is that last year, nearly a third of our students were online because they chose to participate in online learning versus being in person. And by and large, in most of these slides, those students aren't represented because they didn't participate in the testing that we had. They didn't participate in state testing or interim tests. So we are merely presenting you with the data that we have at hand. So again, not to offend, it's just that we are obligated to share this with you at this time. So, so we'll go ahead and start with elementary grades 3 and 5. And this is achievement in standards in language arts from the Colorado Measures of Academic Success tests. And how do we read this data? These charts show the percentage of students who are meeting grade level standards in the green and who are not. I'm sorry, we changed the colors up on this a little bit to represent each year. So it looks a little different than that. But these tests apply only to grades 3 and 5. So what does this data mean? Native American students are less likely to meet grade level standards than non-tribal affiliated students, and Native American students are twice as likely to score as did not meet as their non-tribal students. Note this slide and all subsequent slides with historical comparisons provide an indication of the impact of the pandemic on student learning as well. So each color represents a different year. So starting on our left side, this would be 2016, 2017. The next one is 2017, 2018. Then we have 2018, 2019. We skip a year, and then it's 2020 and 2021. So we have, for all of our Native American students, our Navajo students, our Ute Mountain Ute students, and our non-tribal affiliated students. Again, if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to stop, ask me to stop. So this is elementary grade 4, our students achieving grade level standards in math. Our Cmass test, how do we read this data as well? These charts show the percentage of students who are meeting grade level standards and the percentage of students who are not meeting grade level standards. These tests apply to grades 4. What does it mean? That our Native American students are less likely to meet grade level standards than non-tribal affiliated students, and Native American students are twice as likely to score as did not meet as non-tribal affiliated students. So again, we have also broken down by years, 2016, 17, 2017, 18, 2018, 19, and then we skip a year and it's 2020, 2021.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir.
This is from the letter, but so for the past, I don't know, Sherry, 3-4 years, we've asked the school district for Tina to be involved in looking at different curriculums. This is not working. This math program you all use, I was told 2 years ago, it's native friendly. How do you know it's native friendly? Everybody that chose it was Anglo. So it's not, if you look at the score, it's 3%. I mean, this is horrid. I've spoken to teachers at different schools. So what do you guys think about, and I showed them a picture of what math they're doing, the New York math. They're like, what's this? No wonder our kids aren't learning math. So senior teachers don't even agree with what they're teaching. Which if they don't like math in elementary, they're not going to like it in middle school or high school. And we're seeing that now. But when I set Jeff up with my kiddos one-on-one, they're getting 96% in geometry. He has a way and a style with him that works for them. So we've asked 3 or 4 years now, and I feel like we've been blowing off on that. Last year, we found out on the RE1 website that you guys chose this math program again. And Tina's like, did I miss the invite? I said, I don't know. So it's horrible.
You might have missed it too.
This math program, I've seen it. I helped a first grader, Tina and I did. She got every answer wrong when we helped her. Teacher said, please don't ever help this child again. I said, well, I don't understand it. How are my parents going to understand it? It doesn't make sense to me. So
I'm writing this stuff down and then when I meet.
So I don't know why we continue to use a program. We look at the numbers. Maybe they're going up for everybody else, but they're not for Ute Mountain Ute.
They're not working for everybody else.
And that's one of the reasons why we started a new school, because of the curriculum.
It's not going up for anybody.
Yeah,
Well, it shows for all natives. Navajo's gone up, which is great. So yeah, it is going up for some of the other ones, but it's not for us.
Yeah, it did go up for them. Did not go up for us though. We've dropped down.
Well, but this is about Ute Mountain Ute tribe, not to be disrespectful, but I
No,
am.
I know, but
I'm
what saying
astonished
is
by
that
this.
the math program might not be working.
Yeah, it's not. And we continue to use it,
Well, one thing I found is, I think in some cases we get trapped in, use this method. When I went to school, I hated math because you had to come up with your answer a certain way.
Yes.
They'd come up with the right answer and they'd say, but you didn't do it the right way. It's wrong. When I teach the students math, I explain to them there's no more than one way to do math. Everybody thinks different. Everybody solves it. I mean, math is about more than numbers. Math is about discovering the wonders of the universe. Math is about knowledge. And there's different ways to, I mean, I show them how the Aztecs did. I show them how the Egyptians, I mean, they built pyramids and they didn't even multiply. So I try to give them as many different tools as they can, because this might not work for, and I understand with the size of the classes, it is so hard to give the attention that, and that's one of the problems too. Classes are getting so big for the teachers. It's hard to give the attention that the students need. You know, I'm at an advantage. I can sit there and say, well, is this working for you? And if it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that I explained it to you wrong. So let's try it from this way. Let's try it from that way. You know, and I think that's one of the things that has hurt math a lot is all these, we're going to do this program or we're going to do this program. It should be, give them a whole bunch of tools to work with. Let them choose the tool that makes them feel comfortable. And let them understand why it can be fun. You know, I get them to think of it as games and puzzles, and they enjoy it.
I think,
Yes, sir.
I think in this legislation, under this title, under 2222-94, subtitle 2, is to provide an opportunity for tribes and parents of Indian children to provide their view on the LEA's educational programs and activities, including recommendation on the need of their children and on how the LEA may help those children realize the benefits of the LEA's education programs and activity. As part of this requirement, the LEA will notify tribes and the parents of Indian children of the opportunity to submit comments and recommendation considering the tribe's preference for method of communication and modify the method of and time for soliciting Indian views, if necessary, to ensure the maximum participation of the tribe and the parents of Indian children. And when we look at that, we as a tribe, we follow these guidelines, and we really would like the school district, any school district that serves our American Indian students, these opportunities, parents, inclusion. If we're going to raise the numbers, it has to be done. And I'm going to say again, if it wasn't for our American Indian students going to this school district, it wouldn't have the funds that it has in this community, in this district, because of the per pupil that the federal funding system that is provided to these young individuals to give them an education, to provide an education. It's critical to understand that we just can't pass them through the system. We have to work with them. We have to work with the parents. It's a commonality of individuals and resources to better our students, our young people, who we say endlessly, they're our future. No matter what race, creed, gender, these are our students. These are our kids, our babies that go through the school system, this district. We have to give them an opportunity, and we have to have an inclusion, particularly with our American Indian students. I only see that. And following this and following what is given to me at a level, the executive director on the Indian Policy and Procedure is an Indian from Wisconsin. And I'm in communication with him on such IPP initiatives for tribes. As Councilman Wall had gone to the Native Education Indian Association Conference. It stipulates those requirements as well. But I just see that the level of inclusion at our level, how programs and academics are being drawn up, that they meet the tribal needs. It's a hard thing because we want to treat everyone the same, equal. But being American Indian is a unique position that we're in. And I always include our people, be proud of who they are and what they stand for. Get an education, become successful, whatever you want to do. But we have to teach them the basics, and we have to include them as to what their capabilities. It's a shared responsibility from the tribe to the RE1 district, to the teachers. We're all in it together, as well as parents. I have grandkids that are going to this school, not this school, but at a level of elementary. So I just only say that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next set of information we'll be looking at is Dibs results. These are for our K3 students, and Ms. Trinley can share that information.
I just want to say thank you for speaking. We are all in this together, and we do value every child. Thank you very much. Dibs is a test that we give to our.
Excuse me, can we pull your mask? I can just barely hear you. And so I know, Ms. Richards.
Just thank you for speaking. We value all of our children, and thank you. Dibs test results. Dibs is a test that we give to our youngest students, the percentage of data, percentage of kindergarten through third grade students. This graph shows who are at or above grade level in reading. And so this is in the last 3 school years of 18-19, 19-20, and 20-21. The results show the performance on the spring test, but due to the school closures in COVID, the winter results are shown for the 19-20 school year. So again, it's broken down going from your left, all Native American students, our Navajo students, and then our Ute Mountain Ute students, and then all other students who are non-tribal affiliated. Just to note, this last column in the dark green was when we had a lot of remote learning going on. And so that's why you see it went down a little bit. The next slide is our elementary students. How are they doing in English, language arts, and math? This is our district interns. Interim assessments are given by the teachers 3 times a year, and they are aligned to state standards and state tests. So the top shows the average percentage correct on district English language arts interim assessments, broken down the same way. And the bottom shows the average percentage correct on our district math interim assessments. And so what does this mean? Student performance on the district interims are relatively similar. Native American students do, though, demonstrate lower scores than non-tribal affiliated students on these interim assessments.
Okay, moving on back to Cmass testing. This is for middle school students at grade 7. And these charts show the percentage of students who are meeting grade level standards and the percentage of students who are not meeting grade level standards. These tests apply only to grade 7. So what does this mean? Again, that our Native American students are less likely to meet grade level standards than non-tribal affiliated students. And are twice as likely to score in the did not meet as tribal affiliated students.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I noticed on page 12, on the interim test, the Mountain Ute tribe is 47%. And I know what interim means and I understand it. But then on page 13, we're back down to 7%. So,
Well, one, we're looking at 2 different grades because on page 12, those are elementary. And page 13, that's 7th grade.
So how come we're losing them during that time period?
where does it say the grades are?
At the top. And it's also
So I'm
two
on
different
this-
assessments.
Page 12.
One is our district interim assessments. And then this slide is our CMAS.
And that's what I'm talking about isn't that to get them kind of ready or also help teachers decide, identify areas they need to adjust their instruction as needed? Because if you look at the 47%, I'm like, wow, our kids are getting it. And then when you go to CSAP or whatever.
So I think the difference to a degree, and we can talk about this further, but on this slide here, you see the 47%. This is the average percent correct in math or in English language arts. Whereas when we look at the CMAS, that's the percent that meets or exceeds standards. So this represents correct answers, but this represents the percentage of students that meet or exceed standards. So it's not an exact one-to-one comparison. I'm not suggesting that makes it right. I'm just saying that between the 2 different tests, this is how we look at these numbers as they're presented to us. So
Mr. Parr, is that telling us that our interim tests are not aligned correctly with our CMAS tests?
Thank you.
well, I suppose we could draw that conclusion because we're not seeing
Don't see that.
we're not
we
seeing the
could not
numbers
draw that
moving in the
conclusion.
same direction.
Yeah.
I would say that we have done historically, now this is mostly pre-COVID, but we had done some work on aligning and making sure, or at least seeing that the data was starting to match, and we were seeing that movement. But we have run into these hiccups as of the last couple of years, so. Yes.
I guess my question would be, because I know that my language skills and reading skills improved when I was offered stuff to read that actually interested me. I would be kind of curious to see what kind of, what reading is being given to these children. Is it something that would even interest them because of their culture? You see what I'm saying?
Or offending them.
Correlation, yeah, well, maybe not necessarily offending them, but I mean, if you're giving me something to read that I don't, excuse my French, give a damn about, I'm not gonna read. You give me something that gets me excited, gets me thinking that I can relate to, I'm going to read more. And, there's talk about equality, but we're not all the same. I mean, we need to all be treated equally with respect to them, but we also need to realize that each group of people have different things that, even among Native American tribes, beliefs and interests are different. So we need to, are we identifying what would get the student interested and excited about reading? Are we offering Native American stories? Or I don't know what is in the library, but are we making that part of the curriculum? In other words, is it all just Dick and Jane? Or are we offering other stuff too? Does that make sense?
I know that some of the resources that we've had, over the last 3 or 4 years, we have purchased many different Native American different literature to go into the libraries. And so we
And-
are working on that.
Who recommended those? Was it people from the tribe or was it some professor?
We got recommendations from quite a few different things. We've done some surveys as well to get recommendations. So we do need to do a better job.
Okay, moving on. This is page 14. This is middle school grades 6 and 8. And we're looking at math information. So again, show the percentage of students who are meeting grade level standards and the percentage of students who are not meeting grade level standards as they apply here. And again, each color represents a different year. From 2016 up until this last year. So.
We're back to looking at interim assessments for middle school and how are students doing in English, language arts, and math. So again, this top one is the average percent correct. It's like on a test, it's worth 100%. The average percent correct on district English language arts is interim assessments is in the top for the 2020-21 school year. And in the bottom, the average percentage correct on the district interim math assessments for this past school year. How do we read this? This chart shows that average. And district interim assessments, we do work hard to align those to state standards and state tests. This next slide shows how our middle school students are doing in social studies and science. The top is average percent correct on district social studies interim assessments. And the bottom is science.
And again, I want to say more to Councilman's point. We didn't have all of our kids in the seats last year. We had a third of our Native American students online, so they didn't necessarily participate in some of these tests. So the data is incomplete from that regard. But we don't have data for them. We're presenting what we do have, but not all of our students were there because of the different options for learning last year. So as we go on, we'll look at growth data in language arts and math. So what does growth data tell us? The growth data tells us how quickly our students are growing compared to other students across the state. The growth data is presented in this report. Data showing how quickly students are growing in elementary school and grades 6 through 8 language arts and math compared to other students in the state. Data showing comparisons of Native American students to non-tribal affiliated students, and data showing achievement of Navajo and Ute Mountain Ute students specifically. This data is all from 2019 because growth is not available to us this year because we did not have everyone tested last year. So elementary, are students growing academically as fast as other students in the state? So how do we read this data? These charts show how quickly our students are growing compared to academically similar students. A growth score of 50 represents an average growth for students in Colorado. What does this data mean? Native American students are growing similarly to other students in the state in language arts and somewhat slower in math. So where our last chart had different color for each year. Each one of these represents a different year with the color. So we have all of our Native American students again in similar fashion. Our Navajo students, our Ute Mountain Ute students, and then you can't quite see the non-Native American, but that's for language arts. And the bottom is for elementary math, and the median growth is 12th percentile with a goal of 50. Likewise, grades 6 through 8, are students growing as fast academically as other students in the state? These charts again show how quickly our students are growing compared to academically similar students. Our goal is 50 or above, and we have for, again, all Native American students, our Navajo students, our Ute Mountain Ute students, and non-Native American. The top chart is for language arts growth, and the bottom one is for math growth at our middle school level.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So this stuff that you're showing us now is from the spring of 2019. So that wouldn't be really relevant to what we're talking about right now, right, with what we're doing and stuff. So it's kind of like you're showing us stuff that you guys should have showed us last year when, you know, the COVID thing didn't happen. You know, I'm kind of like want to see what our kids are doing now, because this still show what our kids are doing now. You know, so, you know, there's things like last year I said, you know, or the year before when I came in, I said, you know, you guys need to show us stuff that all has to do with the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, not saying, you know, I'm not trying to discriminate against the other tribes, but, you know, when you guys have these meetings, it usually says relationships with the Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Council, you know, Indian policies and procedures is what we're talking about now, you know, and then you guys are including all these other kids into the program and stuff, or into your situation here, which, you know, it's not right. We're here to talk about Ute Mountain Ute tribal members, and if you guys want to add in other Native American, that's fine. You know what I mean? But, you know, the stuff that you're showing us is old stuff. So I don't even know why you're showing us old stuff when we're here for new stuff, to show us what our kids are, or what our kids are at right now in this situation that we're here.
I agree with you 100%, except that we have to use the old data. We're always a year behind. We went through this last year, we're 2 years
Yes,
behind.
yes, I understand.
So next year, you'll get, today's that, you'll get that next year. But this is called Indian policy procedure.
Yes, yes.
And not you.
Yes, but it does
So
say
we
that
have
when you
covered
guys
the
stuff, it
Navajo-
does say that on there, when you guys, you know, when you guys have your meeting, you guys, it does say it on the meeting with the relationship with the Ute Mountain Ute tribe.
Yes.
Right, see, that's what I'm talking about. So, you know, you're saying, I understand you're including all the other tribes and stuff like that, but we're here to, you know, it's mostly about Ute Mountain Ute tribes.
It is
We're
mostly
working with
about
their
it.
kids.
We may have have Navajo parents in here. I don't know. I haven't perused the room, but we have to address their needs.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. But next year you won't have, we will always be a year behind. Okay? I'm sorry. Unfortunately, this year we're 2 years behind.
Well, and one other thing that I would say to that, and we haven't got to this yet because it's later in our presentation, but something that we are working on to be better at is just communication in general.
Yes.
This year, for the first time, we have a liaison for our Native American tribes, and that's Miss Amelia Jo Chandler. And she is here to help us be better connected, because we know and recognize that historically, that's probably something that we haven't done very well. So that's one of her many purposes with us, and we'll talk more about that as we go. Yes, sir.
Did you guys ever think about putting a Ute tribal member on one of these boards or anything like that? Because we
would welcome.
I would love it. Because ever since I was younger, there was nobody on the board. Well, there was Tina, but Tina really sided with Cortez more than she did with Hoya, because.
Oh, believe me, she did not really. Her and I had many arguments.
But then,
However,
but then this is what I'm talking about, you know. I got a niece in middle school, and we came up, my daughters, my son, we came up all doing the same thing, telling the teachers, hey, what can you post our grades, and them not doing it? until the last minute.
That's
This
not
year-
just with the.
This year, my daughter had a chance to be on the varsity softball team. But then because of a teacher not grading papers, we found out that she was ineligible a week after the fact that she was ineligible. So she went to a game before that she wasn't even supposed to go to if she did the test. And it seems like it's the same way all the way through elementary. Elementary is all good. It's always been that way ever since I was young. Elementary is all good. But when we hit middle school, that's when it starts spiraling out of control. I don't know, with me, honestly, I was a good student all the way up until middle school. And then when I got to middle school, they're the troublemakers. It seemed like we would walk down the hall, they're the troublemakers right there. Yeah, I know we had Kemper, Mesa, all the schools, all the natives all the Ute Mountain natives got together, and we looked pretty fierce walking down the hallway. And that's what we got labeled as a gang. And they said, there goes the gangs. And then after a while, we started getting in trouble. You know, if you're sitting there getting labeled every day, that guy is bad, that guy's bad, that guy's bad, and the teacher not really paying attention to you, but to the class. And when you're sitting there, hey, hey, we'll get to it later on. It seems like that's what would have happened this time around if me and my wife didn't go up into the school and say, hey, I want to sit down with this teacher and talk to them. And then after that, it was resolved. And it seems like high school, it gets worse. It seems like they want them to be accountable for themselves, like hardcore. It's like, hey, here's some papers, you know what to do with them, go ahead and do them. And then after that, they're like, how do we do this? And it's like, what's going on with the schools? And then the schools, they ain't open past what, 4:30. Once school bell rings, everybody's out. Back in the day, it used to be out there. And then, to be honest, Councilman Samwin, the tribe ain't doing their part too, because back in the day, when I was young, the education department stayed open till 6:30. We had a computer lab. We had after-school buses coming up to come get us when we had, stuff up here. So to make it, to tell you that it ain't all their fault, it's you guys' fault too. Starting with the education department and, you not pushing to have our students, get the best. For a while there, the buses would come late and our students wouldn't get breakfast because the buses came late. And now with this whole bus stop in one area, it worked better whenever we had the whole route. But now you guys put it in one spot, that's even worse for, we're all gonna get COVID if that's what you guys think. Put them all in one spot and we get it. But yeah, everybody has to be accountable here, and it's gotta start with the teachers. Gotta start with the school system. They have to stay open for parents like us that wanna get information on, hey, why is my kid failing this? Can I sit down with you guys and talk to you about how I can help my student be better? Instead of, oh yeah, here, take this note home to your mom, and they'll figure it out. Because I'm fortunate to have my wife in my corner, and she's really smart, so. And, I was talking to her sitting back here, and I'm like, hey, most of the other parents, they don't got that, like me, I would have struggled like what she was saying about the math. I sat down with my niece and I'm like, what's going on here? How do you do this math? She was telling me you have to do a whole bunch of boxes, and I'm like, no, you just take this, you minus this, and you get your answer down here. But instead of that, there's all these little boxes. And I'm like, what is that? Me and myself, I just all the way out, you show your work, you're done. And that's how I grew up.
To address your issues, you did do the right thing going to the teacher, but if that doesn't work, then you go to the principal.
Yes.
If that doesn't work, then you go to the superintendent.
Yeah, we had to actually go to their principal because.
And if the
teacher was off.
if it doesn't work with the superintendent, then you can come to the board. To address your other issue, we have
About
what
the
we call,
board seat. Is that, wait,
pardon,
about the board seat?
I'm addressing that now.
Yeah, thank you.
We have what we call a special district, that's District D. And that is where we encourage Ute Mountain Ute tribal members to run for the board. Right now, it's,
But.
excuse me,
but-
let me finish, because I did not interrupt you. Ms. Hall is now your representative because no one stepped up to the plate. We have had Eric White as a board member. You know him, I assume. He has several children. I don't think he has any in school anymore.
No,
I think he graduated last year. Then who was the one that Stacy replaced? Regina Lopez was on the board for a while. So we try to get you here for representation, but it doesn't always happen. Okay, now you may finish.
Yeah, so where was this posted at? You know, we don't get the postings down there. You know, and it seems like who all gets to vote for them? People up here and people down there, or just people
District
down there?
D, it's mostly you.
Oh, wow.
It's mostly you.
See, I
There's a
never
few
knew that.
people in that, there's a few in down south of town that can vote. But I can't vote and I live on Road D. I'm in district.
But why can't we have our own member? in
You
there?
can if they run.
I know, but if these guys are voting and they're not part of our community, then how does that?
You outweigh the vote. You outweigh the vote. There's only a few, there's like 3 roads that District D encompasses in South Portage. We announce it, read the newspaper. It's rather late right now because the vote is already out. But in 2 years, in 4 years, that seat will be open again. And we encourage, I go out to Toyota 2 or 3 times a year and say, is there anybody that will run? Is there anybody I need to reach?
Well, maybe it's the duty of our tribal leaders right here to post those things and have them noted.
Well,
You know?
I'm not a tribal leader, so I
Yeah.
cannot do that. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. When it comes to running for a school board, I was under the impression that our district was the only district that when we went to go get signatures from people that they had to be registered voters from our district, rather when other districts are voting, they can get signatures from any
correct.
registered
That is
voters.
correct.
So can somebody explain that to me, why that is valid?
Because you're considered a special district.
Right.
And we're trying to encourage, and it's a federal law, we're trying to get tribal members to be on the board for representation. I can get anybody in the community except your district to sign my petition. But you can only get somebody, and they have to be registered tribe, they not registered with the tribe, but registered in the county.
A registered voter.
A registered voter.
Yeah.
To sign your petition.
And that's because we're labeled as a special.
Because we're trying to get Ute Mountain tribal members to run.
And how come you not you try to have their own districts?
You do, that's it.
Not within Montezuma County residents, but Ute Mountain Ute tribal residents.
Population, that also is a federal law. We have to have an equal population. Okay.
Well,
Yes,
and
sir.
To add.
I run in that, I have that district. That law came from a lawsuit
1976.
from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe.
Yes.
And so then when they redistricted, they had to incorporate because of the population part of it too. It does have to incorporate part of the county.
But you carry the vote.
But
Is
yeah,
that
you
also why we're not allowed to vote in special elections as well?
like the recall election? Yes.
Because that person was not in your district.
Yeah, so the only time that you got the Ute Mountain Ute tribe or the District D, which incorporates myself, can vote is when it it involves someone in that district. And that recall didn't involve anyone
But
in
every other
District D.
district could vote in that.
Correct.
But if you had a recall in your district, then we would not be allowed to vote, just you. Sir.
Okay, like I said, communication is very vital for all of us. And it's really lucrative that we say, you know, the buses, we had 6 individuals encourage them to run for the council seat here. Education. I sound like a broken record. Please run. We need reputation up here. It's important. It's lucrative all the time. I sound like a broken record. Again, 2 years again, let's do it. You know, I've encouraged that to our membership that has kids, that are educated, understand the curriculum, understand the statute, understand the standards, blah, blah, blah. But that's one thing I always do. I always encourage that no matter what. And you have heard me.
I've
You
heard
me.
you. I've heard you.
And
I've
said,
been there. And
yeah,
listened to
you've heard me say that many times over now.
Maybe you
I'm-
can put it on channel.
We're gonna have to be proactive on a lot of issues that
Yeah.
the bus stop. I can go down the list and we're trying to promote good business. That's, you know, government to government relationship. That's the whole Jimmy of what we're trying to do. And we're starting right now. And it's the preface of everything. We're trying to make sure it's going to become what it is. The past is the past. But, you know, we're losing our 9th graders, low academics.
And that's why we're going to get
Yes,
together.
I don't want to lose any of our students at 9th grade. Right now, I don't think we have a really growing rate for our tribal members that are going to graduate this year. 1.5 credits, 2 credits, where'd it go? That's my concern as a representative, and I've always asked that question. How are we going to do this? How are we going to put this in there? And my vice chairman alluded to, we got to communicate. We got to understand. We got to put it on that board there. We got to make understand people that understand it's there. Like I said, again, and with Stacy Hall, wish you the best to represent us the best way possible. It's all I can ask for until we have that reputation, being a representative in Toyac. It's there. It's vital. We need it. Late Arthur Cudhair was the one who resisted and made that become reality is what we're doing right now.
76, wasn't
Yeah, so that's,
No, it's newer than that.
Mid-1900s, I mean, between 95 and 90.
Yeah, I want to say like 96 is when it was.
I know I was teaching at the time, and I knew the lawyer that fought for your case. So,
So I'd like to make a comment.
yes, sir.
What I think the request is today is it's good that we had that 1996 lawsuit to get representation for District D. But what we do and what we're requesting as Ute Mountain, in the position paper is we want a representative from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe strictly, not in the district in a sense, because Stacy's, I don't know if you've ever gone down to the tribe and asked them, what are your needs?
I have not, I got appointed a year ago, so, yeah, and then COVID hit and so all of those.
Same issue we run
So,
into.
yeah.
People that are running for legislative, whether it's state or national or even tribal or county. If you're going to represent us, you have to be knowledgeable about what you're advocating for.
Right.
As Councilman Law alluded to earlier about our bus routes, as the parent, we also mentioned the bus route. It's a COVID issue, but what we had earlier was going through the different streets to get the students picked up. So we need a representative that comes from the Ute Mountain Ute Reservation. I know it's federal laws, but it's something we want to change.
Right.
That the person filling this board seat has to come from Ute Mountain because they know what the needs are of the community. We're running to the same issue over in Utah for the White Mesa. In San Juan County School District, we have no offense, but we have a Navajo tribal member advocating for White Mesa. Navajo and Utes are 2 different tribes, 2 different sovereign nations, 2 different traditions, 2 different languages, and sometimes they don't agree. So we have to have representatives, even over on the Utah side, representing White Mesa or Montezuma Creek, Anna, that's good. And today you guys are looking at these statistics here and breaking them down by Ute Mountain and Navajo. But each tribe, 574 federally recognized tribes, are different in their own way.
Yes.
Their traditions, their language, their advocacy. There's 3 Ute tribes. There's the Uinta Array up in Northern Ute. There's a Southern Ute Indian tribe and Ute Mountain Ute tribe. We're all Utes, but we're all different too in our own way as a government. So what Southern Ute has, maybe we have something different. So as our government's run that way, so as we have representatives on the school board, we too want our own coming from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe. So if we can find a way, and with your support as a school board, whoever's sitting in here is president or vice president, then support us to get one. So we don't have to compete with somebody that's off the reservation. And it's like Senator Quorum. He's our representative on the state senate side, but he hasn't never met with us as a tribe. He's never met with us. So how is he going to advocate for us through legislation if he's never met with us? So that's what we need.
And asked me about you.
He
Does that help you?
wrote me one letter. He wrote me one letter and that's it.
I get telephone calls from
And
him and
when he's running for election, he comes down, hey, come vote for me. You know,
I would just like to, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you wanna know what the parents want, maybe come down when we get the buses going again. They'll be more than happy to talk to you and let you know. The people at Toya are very, very clear in what they want. They don't always agree. But you could come down there, spend some time, and you can find out exactly what they're looking for.
I would just
I
like to
just
say,
wanted to finish up real quick.
yes, go ahead.
We did have a liaison that was really a strong advocate for the Ute Mountain Ute tribe and the students, Mr. Armenta, Tom Armenta.
Right.
Back
He
then,
was very
he
good.
was out there talking to the students, get back to school.
Yeah.
But we also had one from the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, Leroy Hatch. And he'd be looking for the kids. When they took off running to town, he'd go find them, bring them back, maybe take them right to the parents and say, your student was up there in town running around playing hooky. So strong advocates like these are the ones that can really make us move forward. As the vice chair mentioned, we have to work together, this communication. As a parent mentioned, it's all of us. It's not just pointing the finger saying, oh, you're doing this, you're not doing that. These graphs have been like this for years.
Yes.
They've always been under what we really want to accomplish in our goals and objectives for educators. And we need to be able to make these climb and get better, but it pertains to curriculum. It pertains to salaries for teachers. Right now, your ratio, 15-1, is too high in a sense. If you're going to really look at it from Montessorian philosophy. Each student is different in their learning curve. You have 25 students that are in the 3rd grade or whatever grade. Each one of them fluctuate in their learning curve. How are you going to teach all of them if you have one system in place that you teach every one of them one type of system? To us, it goes back to the boarding school era of assimilation. We're trying to teach these Indian children, these native, these savages to learn this curriculum. We're going back to that same era of teaching when each one of them are different in their own philosophy of learning. If you take a student, each one of them will learn at different levels through a Montessorian philosophy. So I just put that out for discussion or whatever you guys.
I think that we'll hold this till we can all meet together and we can delve into it deeply, if that's okay with you. Okay. If you would like to continue, otherwise we're not going to get through tonight.
Okay. All right, so our next set of slides looks at high school academic data. Tells us how many students are participating in AP classes. Tells us if students are ready for college. The data tells us how many students are dropping out and how many are graduating. The data tells us how Native American students compare to non-tribal affiliated students and includes data for Navajo and Ute Mountain Ute students specifically. What high school academic data is presented in this report is data on participation in AP classes, PSAT and SAT data, dropout rate, and graduation rates. Our first slide looks at what percentage of students in AP classes are Native American. Our graph on the left side, this is total number of 11th grade students, with 26% of the 11th and 12th grade students being Native American. And then on the right side, that graph represents of the whole, of all Native American students, 18% of them have participated in 11th and 12th grade AP classes. In similar fashion to some of the charts and data we saw before, this is grades 9 through 11. Are students ready for college in reading and writing skills for PSAT and SAT? And these charts show the percentage of students who are ready for college based on PSAT and SAT tests. So again, they are highlighted by the year, starting at 2016-17, 2017-18, 2018-19, and then 2021. Top represents students who are scoring as college ready in reading and writing on SAT and PSAT. And the percentage below is of students that are non-college ready on reading and writing in SAT and PSAT. Our next slide looks at grades 9 through 11, students ready for college in math skills on PSAT and SAT. Again, same breakdown. On our left side is year 2016-17. Next is 2017-18, 2018-19, and then 20 and 21. So the top represents students who are college ready in math on SAT and PSAT, and the bottom represents students that are not college ready on math in SAT and PSAT. For our next slide, grades 9 through 11, are students growing academically in reading and writing and math, reading, writing, and math? And so these charts show how quickly our students are growing compared to academically similar students. A growth score of 50 represents the average growth for students in the nation. So this is one that is not broken down by different tribal affiliation. So we have our dark green is our Native American students, and our light green is all students. So on the left, we have reading and writing. So students that are growing. And on the right, we have math growth. Again, with our goal of 50 or the median. And next, are high school students doing in English, language arts, and math on district interim assessments?
So we're back to interim assessments. So these charts show the average percent right among students who took the district interim assessments. Again, to review, these district interim assessments are aligned to state standards and state tests and are administered 3 times a year. So the top is our English language arts interim assessments scores for high school. And the bottom is our math scores for the 2020-21 school year. Aligning the same as all Native American students on our left, Navajo, Mountain Ute, and then non-tribal affiliated students. Then we have our same interim assessments given at the high school level in social studies and science. So this is the number correct on district social studies interim assessments in the top, and the average percentage correct on science interim assessments on the bottom.
Hello, everybody. Interesting conversation so far. First time doing this, looking at charts and graphs. So we're talking about 7th and 12th grade dropout rates.
How do we read this data? This chart shows the dropout rate comparing Native American students with all students. Dropout rate is calculated each year based on the number of students who drop out that year. What does this data mean? Dropout rate continues to go down for Native American students, though it shows that Native American students are slightly more likely to drop out than the whole student population. So it looks like it's on a downward, but less, 33%. All students, and then 44.1% are Native American. And 7th through 8th grade, I don't know what year, 2021, 2019, 20, and so on. So it started in 2016 and then going downward. Here's for graduation rates. Graduation rates, how do we read this data? The chart shows a 4-year graduation rate comparing Native American students with all students. The 4-year graduation rate is calculated based on the percentage of students who graduate within 4 years of starting high school. What does this data mean? Native American students were less likely to graduate than non-tribal affiliated students. Graduation rates dropped in the 2021 school year for both Native American and all students. So if you look at the light colored one is Native American and the dark colored one is all students. From 2016, we're looking here, 50%, 2017, 18, 58, 2018, 19, 69%, 2019, 20, 64%, and then 2021, 57%, based on 4-year graduation rate. 2021 data are preliminary.
And it should also be noted that the graduation rates and the dropout rates also include our partners at schools. So it's not just exclusively to NCHS, it's the combination of it.
I have a question. Last or 2 years ago in 2020, I had a senior graduate from NCHS, and it was a struggle for him. Right before he went to graduate, he was surprised with that he needed 3 more credits in order to do so. But he wasn't going to be able to participate, and he had to come back next year. He's a super senior, that's what they call him. He didn't want to do that, so him and my mother had sat for 3 nights and made 3 credits in 1 night, which is amazing. And he got to graduate with this class on time, like he deserved to. This year, I have a senior getting ready to graduate. He has a 504. His 504 was not honored the first 2 years of his high school here. I thought it was, but it was not, because now that he has a new counselor, it was brought to my attention that he did not have a 504. Coming to find out now, there's new graduation requirements called competency graduation requirements that say that no matter if he does have enough credits to graduate, if he does not show competency in English and math, then he does not graduate. And there's no 504 accommodations with that competency. I thought it was on the state level that it was saying that there were no accommodations, but I found out that it's on the school level. So the school, while they honor IEPs, for that, they do not honor 504s. So that was discouraging to me. Also to find out, I had a teacher call and press that he should graduate with a technical diploma. I did not know that the high school offered 3 different diplomas: honors diploma, standard diploma, technical diploma. He did not want to do that because I asked, what's the catch? What's the catch with the technical diploma? The catch is that if he wanted to go to a 4-year college, he would not be able to do so, which brought me back to my 2020 graduate. When he went to apply for schools like Fort Lewis, he was denied. Come to find out, he graduated with a technical diploma. Nobody in this high school ever asked me if that was okay, with him, what the ramifications were with him graduating with the technical diploma. And now I have a senior that I have been on for years on where he's at. And I come to find out that during his sophomore year, the end of the year, he had 10 credits. I said, Sonny, when I went to school, if you didn't have enough credits to be a junior, you weren't a junior. You didn't get to do junior, senior things. You didn't get to go to prom. You didn't get to do that stuff. But here they let them do that. They let them have almost false hope. They let you go to prom, they let you do the senior things, knowing you only have 6, 10 credits. I didn't understand how the school lets things like that get by. Whenever my son deserves, he's had a 504 since the 4th grade, it's been a struggle. I've been in front of the school board before, IPP was talking about this. So I don't know where the communication could get any more clear, but there isn't one. I didn't even find out till this year that there was supposed to be a 504 coordinator. My son's had a 504 since the 4th grade. And they didn't know, Mr. Chandler didn't know who the 504 coordinator was. Since then, Russell at the Arc of the Southwest found that information for me. So I just want to make let you guys know how many of these kids are graduating with standard diplomas, honors diplomas, and technical diplomas. I'd like to know that.
Me too. I found out about this.
Well, I know that as a liaison, I've been finding out a lot of things that are not communicated and that are complicated. I mean, every student gets a student handbook and there's pages and pages and pages of things that they have to know. And in the past, they had to take that home and then a signature from a parent and a child represented that they saw that. But did they really see it? That's the question, because there is 3 columns of graduation: the honors diploma, the regular graduate, and the technical one. There is 3, and I know that they don't encourage a technical one unless it is something that is reachable for that moment. It is reachable at that time. So the student handbook is thick, it's full of information, and it's all, I know it's in there because as a teacher, I had to go over with that with the kids. But I know as a liaison, I actually asked the principals, can you just print out that part? Don't hand all of it to the parents. Just hand out the important part of the information that really is needed. And that's the graduation section. And I myself am actually working with kids who have 2 credits and they're seniors. I'm sitting down with them, I'm looking at credits. What does that look like? And I use money as an example. You need $3 a semester to get $24 at the end of 4 years. So I break it down for them and I visually put those numbers in squares so they can see it. And they realize, oh man, I'm missing $10. I said, you are. You're a senior and you're missing $10. You're gonna have to pump it in right now and you're gonna have to really work hard to get those $10 by next year, by spring 2022. It's a visual thing. We gotta break it down and make it simple. That I agree on. I agree on that part. I also agree that the communication between child, parent, and principals and counselors are very important. So my job is to create those documents that create that communication line between the counselor, the child, the parent, and the principal. Because this last minute stuff is stressful. It's stressful on the teachers, on the principals, on the parents, and the child. I've seen it. I'm working with that right now. Right now, I am working with that. And it's heart-wrenching to see the child give up. I've seen them give up. And you're right, it's a communication problem and it is a visual aid problem. And that's what I'm working on now. That communication part and the part where we get from middle school to high school and 5th grade to 6th grade. Those transition areas are important and we haven't quite met that communication gap as well. And I've talked to a girl last year. She didn't have that many credits and I asked her, don't you realize you need those credits? This year you need 6. She says, Ms. Chandler, I don't even know what a credit is. I said, it's something you need to learn earlier. So this year I went over to Corey, who does the middle school teaching on that. And I said, we're gonna make a parent packet. And in that parent packet, there's gonna be transitional information for a 5th grader for middle school. And there's gonna be a transitional information from 8th grade to 9th grade. And in that packet, there's got to be visual aid on what graduations are available, why they're available, and what you can go towards. That's my job. I've been on this job since August 19th, and I am bombarded with things like that.
Yeah.
But I understand because I'm looking at the kids face to face and I'm talking to them and I'm understanding, I'm breaking them down like, what is it you don't get? What is it you don't understand? Where are you going with this? What's your plan? And I also see kids stand up and say, I get it. And I see kids skulk down and say, I give up. So I'm at the one end of the spectrum and the other end of the spectrum. And my job is to try to bring that together.
And I see what you're saying because I think I have another child that has an IEP and then my child now has a 504. And I didn't think that I was going to have to educate myself as much as I have had to because there isn't any information for me from the school district or open information to help me help my son get through this. And when you hand me a packet, like you said, full of information, I almost feel like I could, I almost have to be one of these educators. My education's in history. And education is a broad, spectrum. So, for me to learn everything about 504s and IEPs and what I do know now, I don't feel like I should have had to learn. I should have thought the communication, and not just with 504s and IEPs, but just in general, the communication needed to be more clear, for us parents to hand us a booklet for, I think I had with the course description, is a good one. And I appreciate you taking the time to simplify that, for parents like me, I have 6 kids. So, when anything that makes my life simpler as a parent, then that helps me be a better parent. There, I sent a better student.
Yep, I grew up with 11 kids, so I understand. So that's what's happening. Understandable, frustrating, understandable. Child either rising to the top because he gets it or giving up because he doesn't want to move forward because it's too far away. But I keep telling him, you can go to school till you're 21. You can still do it. You can still go and get it if you want it, but you have to start working now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. You have to start. So it is there. The information in this school district is massive. There's so much information in this school district. We got to learn how to weasel through it and figure it out. And that's what I'm finding out. The things I'm hearing tonight from the councilman, from the education department, from you, those are all the things that I'm dealing with. I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it, and I'm making confirmation of, yeah, I'm on the right track. Because when they said you're a district coordinator and liaison, I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Well, you know what? Every time I hear something, I write that down as one of my objectives because that's what I'm supposed to do. I have never been on the phone like I have been this year. I have never emailed like I have been this year. I have never spoken or broken down things like I have been this year. I understand. I know what you're saying. I know where the frustration is. And learning about historical trauma and boarding school trauma, that's a whole nother ballgame. And that's going to take me and finding people in the Ute Mountain Ute tribe to help me with a video, to help me with slides and get that out there so that our teachers understand what that means. When they see a child, they go, okay, let's go around this way and learn it this way. Or let's go around this way and learn it this way. So those are all things that I've been seeing, hearing, and trying to start.
I'm interested to see how you're going to do that, knowing that the school board had just gotten rid of the critical race theory. So I'm interested to know how you're gonna.
Hey, I'm gonna do my job. I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna study Ute Mountain Ute history. I'm gonna study Navajo history and I'm gonna present it.
Okay,
If they don't like it,
thank you.
Let's go forward once the documents is
Yeah.
straight. No,
Yeah.
that stays.
so I'm gonna do my job and that's it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Ms. Chandler,
Yeah,
may I make a recommendation?
yes,
As you mentioned that you want to come down and learn more about the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, any of you are more than welcome to. Stacy, especially you for coming down as our representative to try to understand. And also I'd like to make the second recommendation that when we sent out these packets for high schools that are coming in as freshmen and the parents have to sign off going back to the 8th grade as they transition before they become freshmen, I think that's where you need the parent involvement so they can understand what it is about the credits and how many credits per year, and they can eventually get to it.
Right.
I'd like to get a list from the school district on your number of technical graduates for Ute Mountain and your honor, just a breakdown of all of those, because we want to do comparison. Most of our graduates graduating from Ute Mountain at a technical graduation certificate. If not, if they are, then we need to bring our game up to see if we can get them on the standard side so that they better understand that they can move into a higher education and look at it from that perspective. But thank you, Ms. Chandler. I appreciate all your comments.
Thank you. Okay.
And I got something brief,
Okay.
just to bring and add to it, kind of let the people understand we're already working with that relationship
Right.
as of last year, and we're still making that movement going forward. And it's good to work with Ms. Chandler here, and it's been successful being meeting on daily, monthly basis, because that's exactly what we're trying to do, is to educate ourselves and get to that point, because it's long overdue. So that's my interpretation I'm seeing. So with Mrs. Chandler here, that's the whole initiative that we're trying to find and making it become concrete for the Ute Mountain Ute tribe. So I just want to add that too as well. It's been effective right now, but it's still going through the early stages, but eventually we will get it.
Eventually, it takes time, it takes energy, and I need my twin to help me, whoever that is.
I know that's gonna happen next week.
All right, I think that's my section, and then,
I was just going to say something. We were talking about critical race theory and, not critical race theory, historical trauma. I mean, there's a difference between true history and what's been politicized.
Right.
We did a presentation at the NIUA convention 3 years ago on the boarding school trauma, and that we would be more than willing to.
there's your twin. I will take it. Save me some time. That would be wonderful. Right, thank you. All right, I'm done, I think, right?
For now.
For now.
Our next section to look at is our special population. And what does special populations data tell us? This is the percentage of Native American students in special education compared to the percentage of Native American students in the school as a whole. The percentage of Native American students in gifted and talented education compared to the percentage of Native American students in the school as a whole. The percentage of Native American students who are English language learners, and how well English language learners who are Native Americans are doing in learning English. So this first slide, how does the percentage of Native American students in special education compare to non-tribal affiliated students in special education? So again, our graph on the left side is a total of percentage of students who are Native American in the district. We have the total students at 27%. And the graph on the right are the percentage of students in special education who are Native American, which in the light color is represented by 38%.
And I just want to say, as we talk about our percentage of Native American students in our district, percentage-wise, we have the highest percent of Native American students in the state of Colorado. So that's something really to be proud of. As we look now and see the percentage of Native American students in gifted and talented compared to non-Native or non-tribal affiliated students in gifted and talented, this chart shows on the left again, the percentage of students who are Native American students in the district, which is 27 at the current time. And then on the right graph, this one doesn't have our percentages, but percentage of Native American students in gifted and talented who are Native American is 11% at the current time. So we're first going to talk about English language learners and really who they are. English language learners are students who have a primary home language other than English. And so if we keep that in mind, we're going to talk about two different categories. When we find out that a student has another language, whatever it might be, we interview the students and the families to find out, do they indeed have a primary language? Do they understand just a couple of words, or do they truly understand a conversation and think in both languages? Then at that time, then we give them a placement test or a screener to determine their level of language acquisition. There are two levels. I'm going to talk about first before we get into the numbers, and that is the non-English proficient, which they refer to as NEP, and that is the lowest level of language acquisition. So their skills in listening, speaking, reading, and writing are lower. And then limited English proficient, which is LEP, and that's kind of in the middle. Their skills in, again, listening, speaking, reading, and writing are kind of in the middle area. And we are required by the state to support those students until they become and reach fluent English proficiency. So this chart shows the breakdown of how many Native American students are English language learners by tribe. And it also shows how many students are identified as non-English proficient that we talked about, the NEP, or limited English proficient. So on the left, we'll begin. So these are totals in the district. Total number of ELL students, all Native Americans, we have 28, Navajo 14, Ute Mountain Ute 14. We do not have any English language learners from other tribes, but we do have 68 students who are non-tribal affiliated. The total in the district is we average around 800 Native American students. 414 of those are Navajo, 332 at the current time are Ute Mountain Ute, and then we have 53 students in the district who are from other tribes. But the total in the district of approximately 2,710 students. The next column shows that in percentage-wise as students who are ELLs, so about 35% for 3.5%, 3.3% going down, 4.2%. We have 0% students who are ELLs from other tribes, and 2.5% the students are non-tribal affiliated. To break down even further, those students who are at the lower level of the English language development skills, all Native American students, we have eight non-English proficient, 6 Navajo, 2 Ute, and then 0 other tribal affiliations, and 19 students who are of a non-tribal affiliation. The next column shows that number in a percentage. Then we can look at students who are the greater population of students who are limited English proficient, 20 total of Native American. You can break that down, 8 are Navajo, 12 are Ute Mountain, 0 other tribes, and 49 students who are non-tribal affiliation. Then the far right column is that in percent.
Trina,
Yes.
I just want to point out for everybody, because I just learned this year. I have a student I'm working with that's concurrent enrollment here at PCC, and he is ELL, and it's not a disability. We don't, we try to put to their heads like, hey, you should be proud that you know 2 different languages. However, the colleges do not accept the ELL because it's not a disability, and I didn't know that. So I had to get to know the professor, talk to the professor, and he made accommodations. So there are accommodations we make, but absolutely an ELL student is not a disability. Every time I talk to a student who knows another language, I tell them how much smarter they are than everyone else who only knows 1 language. They are thinking in 2 languages. They're using more of their brain, and it's absolutely something to be proud of. I just never knew until I experienced this whole scholarship process and stuff that it wasn't recognized in colleges. So, because like I think you explained to me by 12th grade, they should be able to, I don't know how you worded that today. We spoke today.
Yeah.
Like by 12th grade, they should be out of the ELL, right?
Hopefully they've
Hopefully.
learned enough strategies and learned what they need to accommodate and to speak for themselves at the college.
Okay,
If I can make a comment about the disabled students, I have a child that has an IEP. Was in the 4th grade last year. Whenever you guys went on to give him the decision of whether he was going to do online learning or in-person learning, we were told that if he did online learning, he would have to have the same and learn the same curriculum as a regular 4th grader. He can't do that. So we had our hands tied and had to send him to in-person school. We went, we seen he only had 8 people in his classroom during that time. He rides the ESS bus. He was the only rider. We had to think about all of these factors and making, deciding whether he could do regular 4th grade curriculum or if, he needed to go to school, he needed to go to school. A child like him with autism needs schedule. So schedule is something that he has not had this whole pandemic. So we had him reevaluated. When we got him reevaluated for this year, I said, what happens if he goes to remote learning? His teacher notified me that when he was reevaluated, he has intellectual qualifications now. So his intellectual qualifications evidently gives him a different curriculum, which does not exist. So he's sitting at home until the 8th, which he did also when the school went into quarantine in September, nothing to do. And that's where he sits now. No curriculum for him. Because before, as he had autism and been identified since he was 3, but he didn't have intellectual qualifications to be given accommodations. And when he does have them, there's no accommodations for him.
okay, yes, thank you for that, if you wouldn't mind, can I meet with you afterwards and get some information, because that's not something that I'd like to.
Sure.
Well, I know we had discussions outside last Thursday, correct?
Yes, because on
And,
top of that, he
yeah,
has a doctor's note
yeah,
that says
and
that
we
people
talked
around
about
him
that,
should wear
so-
masks. Anybody around him should wear a mask.
Right.
I talked to his principal. She informed me that all staff wears a mask around him. But they cannot allow our retired students to do so because of board restrictions. So
Right,
that's where I'm at
and
with that.
so, what we can do too is get together with the BOCES, and, because I know you work tightly with them as well, and so, because it's kind of it's several organizations, and so we'll reach out. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, we'll be looking at student engagement data, and this comprises of attendance and another thing. So,
Okay, how does the attendance of Native American students compare to non-tribal affiliated students? Attendance, how do we read this data? This chart shows the attendance rate comparing Native American students with non-tribal affiliated students. What does this mean? In elementary schools, Native American students were absent more often than non-tribal affiliated students. The attendance rates were consistent across student groups at MTHS and or HS, high school, middle school. Elementary attendance for 2020 and 2021. You can see all Native Americans, 8%, 17, Navajo. This is absences. This is attendance. And then Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, and then non-tribally affiliated. And then you go to the attendance for 2021 school year secondary, all Native American, Navajo, Ute Mountain Ute, non-tribal affiliated. So, any questions on that one? Okay. How does attendance of Native American students compare to other non-tribal affiliated students? Students learning remotely. How do we read this data? During the 2021 school year, the school district offered 2 remote learning options to students and families, SLS and CDLS. The charts below show the percentage of Native American students who enrolled in each option and percentage of all students across the district who enrolled in each option. Note that these platforms do not refer to learning that occurred due to quarantines or school closures. What does this data mean? 3 to 4 times as many Native American students enrolled in remote learning options during the 2021 school year. The percentage of students in remote learning, you see that SLS, Native American students versus all students, and then CDLS, Native American students, and then all students. So many Native American students chose remote learning. How does suspension rate compare in elementary? Out of school suspension, how do we read this data? These charts show the percentage of students suspended at elementary school comparing Native American students with non-tribal affiliated students. The chart on the left shows percentage of students in school who are Native American compared to non-tribal affiliated. The chart on the right shows percentage of suspensions that are given to Native American students. What does this mean? It means that Native American students make 29% of the elementary enrollment and represent 21% suspensions. This underrepresented representation is a shift in the trends from previous years. So enrollment and suspensions. So there's 10 suspensions and there's 37 total. This is non-Native American, that's non-tribal affiliated.
Amelia?
Yeah.
Real quick. So I'm having Ms. Vanderway pass out something that we would like to see change while we're on this slide. This came out of this, which I don't know why Sherry, you've been around as long as I have.
I've got that.
This is from the 2005, 2006 Bible for IPP. It's thick, it's really broken down. And this one shows what we're requesting as a department, where it breaks down the tribe, Asian, Black, Hispanic, white, and then also tells us gender, what they're suspended for, what the violation was of the drug, alcohol, tobacco, fights. Because, it says 10 suspensions. Is that 10 kids? Is that 1 kid, 2 kids? And then why? Why are they being suspended or expelled? So that's what we're requesting as a department, to be broken down more.
We used to get this at our board meetings too, but no names. And
Right.
no ethnicity, but
Right.
what the suspensions and expulsions were for. And I don't believe we've had that for 3-4 years.
I don't
now
know.
that It's
And
come to us.
I
So
think-
this would be something valuable to us.
I think George Schimpel was the last one that really did a
Yes.
great job with breaking everything down. I looked at this and it was broken down a lot. I keep hearing we can't break that down. Can't break that
Yeah.
down because you didn't meet the certain number. He did. What's the difference? I mean, but I would like to know, Native American students, is that 4 youths? Is that all youths? Is it whatever? But that's what we're
Is this
requesting.
taken out of that book?
Yeah, it is. Yes, ma'am.
And you can have a green one too.
Yeah, page 52 out of this one.
Okay, I'll see if we still have that.
What year was that?
2005, 2006.
Yeah, it was,
We have every year. So
right, that, I think Bill was still here then.
I think this was when, the one after him, Stacy, maybe.
No, that was.
That's still Bill?
I think so.
Okay.
That would have stayed still.
But I know George.
I don't understand why we can't do this.
I
By the
think-
way that we put discipline in the power school.
I think it's possible. I just think
It's a lot of work.
I just think it was just not put in.
Well, it just
No one
depends. It just depends.
recognized it. I mean,
Because in 2004, the laws,
We're different.
I don't know exactly I don't know exactly what the law would be to pertain to this, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But we will look into this, but I just have to make sure that it's okay, because I know a lot of things have changed in the last from 2004 or 5 school year
Right.
to 2020, 21. So what I will do is we will make sure that we find out the information. If we find information that says we cannot state that information per a certain reason, we will inform you why. But I think it's very fair to know who's being suspended and who's being expelled and why, because it tells a story, and it tells a story of what our school district handles, because we do handle a lot of suspensions and expulsions, but it also tells a story of the needs that our families have and share. And it offers us, similar with your truancy work, it offers us an opportunity to work with the tribe on trends that we're seeing from, even if we want to go into economic development and workforce development for the future, you look at our kids now, these are the trends that we have to fix so that 10 years down the line, those kids aren't, in jail or doing other things. So it's an opportunity to tell a story as well. So we'll get back to you on that.
I think one thing that really needs to be looked at strongly is adverse childhood experiences and how they should be handled as opposed to how we do handle them. In a lot of places, a lot of schools actually do just the opposite. It ends up leading to higher rates of suspension, higher rates of kids dropping out, higher rates of health problems, everything else, criminal behaviors and everything because of the way it's handled.
How does suspension rates compare in middle school? Out of school suspension, how do we read this data? These charts show the percentage of students suspended at middle school comparing Native American students with non-tribal affiliated students. The chart on the left shows the percentage of students in school who are Native American compared to non-tribal affiliated. The chart on the right shows the percentage of suspensions that are given to Native American students. What does this mean? Native American students make up 32% of middle school enrollment and 32% of suspensions. This equal representation represents a shift in the trend from previous years. So if you look at the enrollment, here's Native American students here and then non-tribal affiliated 2021. And then the suspensions, 32% for Native Americans and 69% or 68% for non-tribal affiliated. So, and how do suspensions rates compare in high school? Out of school suspension, how do we read this data? These charts show the percentage of school suspended at high school comparing Native American students with non-tribal affiliated students. The chart on the left shows the percentage of students in the school who are Native American compared to non-tribal affiliated. The chart on the right shows the percentage of suspensions that are given to Native American students. What does this mean? Native American students make up 30% of high school enrollment and 22% of suspensions. This underrepresentation is a shift in the trends from previous years. So here's your enrollment and here's your suspensions. And again, the same question comes up. Is it repetitive by the same kid or is it 5 different, and that's the chart that Alicia talked about. How many Native American students participated in middle school athletics in 2020? Okay, sports. We got boys basketball, girls, cross country, football, track, volleyball, wrestling. Number of participants, 19. Boys basketball, number of Native American students, 4. Percentage of participants, 21%. Girls basketball, 27 participated. 11 of those were Native American, which makes 41%. Cross country, 36 people participated, 5% were 5 Native Americans and 14%. Football, 55 participants, 11 Native American students, which is 20%. Track, 28 participants, 2 Native American students, 7%. Volleyball, 45 participants, 12 Native Americans, 29%. Total students, 217 participated in those sports. 47 of those were Native American, which made 22% participated.
Is this 2021?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
2020?
Well, 20,
Oh,
it would have been,
20/.
it would have been last year's
Yeah,
school. year,
okay.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have that on.
Does anybody know, do these numbers also include ineligible students? So like, did 55 football, 11 of them were native? Does that include even if they were ineligible?
I'm just guessing. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
Because it changes.
I mean, because I think they're in sports, they could be.
Well, when I would, at the high school, when I gave this report,
Right.
it's everybody
Right.
who went out for that
Right.
sport.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
So there may be days when they're eligible, and there may
Right.
be days where they're ineligible,
Right.
right?
Right.
Thank you.
Ms. Lee?
Some of the packets are missing that page.
No, I have the page. It was just, I didn't have the date.
It was just written differently?
I just didn't have the date on it, so.
Oh.
so
You
I,
mean you were missing this?
yes,
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed it on this one also.
Oh, yeah, this slide, I think this slide was our final one, wasn't it?
Okay.
Okay. How many Native American students participate in high school athletics in 2020? The activity, the participants, Native American participants, and the percentage. So cross-country 11, 4 were Native American, 36%. Golf, 11 participants, no Native Americans, 0%. 25 softball, 8 Native American, 32%. Girls basketball, 13 participants, 8 Native American, 62%. Boys basketball, 17 participated, 4 Native American, 24%. Wrestling, 8 participants, 1 Native American, 13%. Cheerleading, 19 participants, 2 Native Americans, 11%. Dance, 5 participants, 2 Native American, 40%. Football, 47 participants, 13 Native Americans, 28%. Soccer, 23 participants, 0 Native Americans, 0%. Volleyball, 26 participants, 4 Native Americans, 15%. Baseball, 27 participants, 7 Native Americans, 26%. Golf, girls, 5 participants, 0 Native Americans, 0%. Track, 31 participants, 6 Native American participants, 19%. Oh, this is my part. I actually understand this one. Native American Parent Survey, overview, fall 2021. This is in regards to the survey that was sent out via Mark Knox. And it felt like he put his watch down, he put my phone number in there, and he clicked them at the same time. Because after that, my phone rang off the hook for hours. So Native American Parent Surveys, what is this? The district provided a parent survey for parents of Native American students this year. This is the first year of this survey, which will be provided annually. The purpose of the survey is to learn more about the experience, priorities, and concerns of our Native American parents and students. The survey was sent out via email and provided in hard copy at various elementary schools. Next year, a concentrated effort will be made to ensure all parents receive a hard copy at their school. Okay, I think this is from last year. Am I right?
Mhm.
This was something they put in last year. And I believe they put a note in all the kids' backpacks. And 29 parents responded to that survey. This year, Mark Knox did the clock thing with my phone number, click, and 164 parents responded.
Wow.
That's a big difference. And next year, I bet it's gonna double, so, oh my gosh.
And that's all her.
And if you notice the high percentage of the parents from the tribe that responded, that tells you right there.
Yeah.
How much the parents care about what's going on in their kids' education.
And a lot of them were, when they call me, they would say, what is this about? And I kind of like, what are you trying to do? And I said, look, It's a survey that we're doing. We want to know what you think about what your kids are doing in school. And we're just getting numbers. It's just about the data that we want to see. So I explained it to them on the phone. And when they hung up, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. I understand. And then they'd hang up and then, it was all day, just constant. But it didn't hurt me at all to explain that, to go one more step to explain why the survey was happening. And then when they did it later on, some of the parents, the grandmas would say, I did your survey. I said, oh, thank you. Someone's like, you owe me one.
Amelia?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a recommendation on her. I'd really like to see her have an assistance because I don't want her to burn out in all this situation. I think, she needs a lot of help because it's, she's making a big progress of what she's doing. So I work with her and I see that so many times. So that's my recommendation coming from my end.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm in her office and yeah, she's working her tail off.
So social emotional skills are taught at this school, and I just kind of look at the green.
Yeah, I know.
The green versus the purple and the orange. Green is strongly agree, light green is agree. Neither agree or disagree. I feel like the purple is, I don't know, I'm not sure, so they do purple. And then the disagree is here, and the strongly disagree is on the tips here. So social emotional skills are taught at the school. It's about 40% green, and then this one's about the same and go on. So that's how I look at this. When I look at it, I'm looking at the colors. My students has an opportunity to be involved in extracurricular activities at school. That's pretty high. My student is motivated to attend school. That's pretty high. Okay. My student is safe. The school is safe. There's the middle line, so it's a little above. All students' cultures are acknowledged and respected in school. Way down. Yeah. I feel welcome at my student's school. Way high. Discipline in my student's school is fair and consistent. Way low. Okay. My student is aware of his or her academic progress. Way up here, 70%. Okay, and there's no strong disagree on this one. Okay, my student views school as a place where learning is a priority. Here's 50, it's way high. My student's teachers expects him or her to be a high achieving student. Here's 50, it's almost in the middle. My students receive extra support from his or her teacher if needed. That is smack in the middle. Left and right here. My student has support in developing study habits, organizational skills. That's pretty high. And this right here, I know personally, Alicia and I have to really help students get organized. Oh my gosh. Okay. Parents have a voice in their students' education at this school. Below 50, right about 48, 35. There are opportunities for me to meet with the school principal. A little over half. I can telephone or email teachers if I have questions. Way high. Super high. I receive reports about my students' assessment results in a timely manner. About half. I receive progress reports about my students' performance. A little over 60 with strongly agree and agree. I have received regular communication from school personnel. About 60. Okay, so is that? Okay. So looking at this, with everything we talk about, the suspensions, the enrollment, the low grades, and all of that. When I look at this, I think, you know what? The parents who did the survey, we see a different reflection in that. We see how they care. We see how the kids are engaging, and we see that they do want to be here. And it actually made me happy when I saw this because it was a positive part and it made answering all those phone calls worth it. So I hope next year we get 300 and just keep going and keep going and keep going. Yeah.
Right, so we're gonna just talk for a moment, switch gears about, and talk about the Title VI Native American grant that we apply for every year. Believe me, it is a federal grant and it is a challenge at times, but we have some great objectives. And these are the objectives that every dollar that we decide on how to spend has to align to these objectives. So increase knowledge of cultural identity and awareness, increase at-risk student support, improve academic achievement, and improve graduation rate. So this is in year 2 of this 3-year grant where we've kept these same objectives. And so this grant does not bring in a lot of money. We get, I think last year was about $157,000, and we stretched that thin. We have a para in every building, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how we support. This is a summary of the school-based programs supported by federal grants, and the Title VI program is in orange. So supporting for reading and math for struggling students. We have reading interventionists at each school, the elementary. We have a district coach and pairs to support English language learners. Out of our Title VI money, we have paraprofessionals to help struggling students, and this year we've switched it around, and we have a paraprofessional in each building, with the exception of Louis Areola and Pleasant View. After school tutoring and summer school at the elementary and middle. And then we use programs like Lexia, Zur, and Nuzella, which are computer-based program interventions for the elementary, middle, and high school. We also use federal grants to support students for social emotional needs and parent engagement. We have school counselors at the large in-town elementary schools. We have mental health support funds for middle school and wraparound supports. The Title VI grant supports it by cultural resources for our Native American students, including the adoption of the Ute Mountain Ute curriculum and resources on the Navajo tribe. But we also included in that resources for many different Native American tribes. And so each building has a tub with all of those resources in it. And then we have, we support students' social emotional needs and parent engagement. So there's funds for that in other grants. There is support for teachers to build their instructional skills and teachers' leadership. The Title VI grant supports professional development for teachers. We also have many academies available for staff to build skills and awareness. We have support or stipends for teacher leaders and mentors for new teachers. We have assessment data and systems to help teacher progress monitor students.
What is the district doing to improve our services and support for Native American students? Improving communication with tribe and community. Oh my gosh, that's huge. I'm learning about this, the Communication Support Committee. We had our first, I'm going to call it a rebuild meeting. We started, we just met once, but I'm assuming we're going to meet every month. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. Parent Advisory Committee is coming up. Yeah.
You've already started your CSC meetings?
Yeah.
Did you invite your board representative?
No?
Yeah.
We'll add you to the list.
Yes, it's very important. When I represented you guys,
Yes.
I was at all the meetings,
Yes.
and I felt like it was very important for me to know what was going on.
I just want to reach out to it. If it become available, I'm for it. You know, it always helps, no matter what direction we got to go. So, yes.
Okay. Parent Advisory Committee has been going on for quite some time, but we're starting that up again. Pandemic kind of interrupted a lot of things, but it's on the website now. I just updated that. Their first meeting, I think, is November 9th. And I'm running that portion of it. And I'm just sitting there, and the parents are, of course, they're the ones creating all those themselves. Improving academic support, achievement, and graduation, professional development for teachers, paraprofessional academic support at elementary, student success advocates at middle and high school, support engagement, attendance, and academic achievement, supporting cultural identity and awareness, Indigenous Club, attendance at cultural events and bringing cultural events to school. I started an Indigenous club at the high school and we had a blast, and then pandemic ruined everything. And then this year, I'm introducing that this year to the middle school. We're going to call it Indigenous Club Junior. And then I also started a Native Pride Cougars for Kemper Elementary School. And the 5th grade girls were the ones who wanted that. So if these kids want that, that's what I'm there for, to help start it. But I need help. I need sponsors to step up and help with those programs.
And what times does the Indigenous Club meet?
Right now, the middle school, the Indigenous Club Junior will meet on Tuesdays after school, and the Indigenous Club High School will meet on Thursdays after school.
And is the after school because of what the school board did at the last meeting concerning lunch?
No.
It does not.
No,
Okay.
it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay, that was my question.
The only reason we're having it after school is because SCYC runs the bus for us.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I correlated that. Okay? Support for students to attend ACES conference, attendance at National Conference for American Indian Students in Engineering. Now, I've taken ACES twice on a field trip, and I have to beg kids to go. That's one of the things we really want to support and get kids involved in math and science. Because there's so many scholarships out there for our Native American people on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So this is one area that I think I'm going to ask the tribe to help me with. Let's get our kids into math and science. New curriculum and other tribal materials and resources available at school.
You know, STEAM is good too. So
STEAM, right,
it's
art.
Science, technology, engineering, art,
and
and
math.
math.
What is the district doing to improve our services to support for Native American students?
Well, our first bullet is our district Native American liaison, who works directly with students, families, and tribal representatives to provide support and resources. And I think we've seen a pretty strong example of the work that she's started this year. So not having this specific role in place in previous years, I think we see the impact that it already is making.
Additional paraprofessional staffing to exclusively support Native American students under direction of the Native American liaison. There's a paraprofessional, there's 5, I believe, 2 at the middle school, 1 at the high school. Well, there was 1 at the high school. Kemper, Manal, and Mesa. There's 5 paraprofessionals, and I have them, I have a list of all the students in the school, and they go and they work with every student. Every person they work with gets documented as being worked with. And then I in turn, and I haven't had a chance this week, but I have 20 students that are on my hot list to call. And I call the parents, I tell them what's going on. And if I need to meet with those kids. So the paraprofessionals are the first row to communicating with the family. Partner with the Tribal Education Department to review district identification process for special education and gifted and talented to ensure we are best meeting the needs of our Native American students. The percentage of gifted and talented students has increased from 8% in 2020 to 11% in 2021. Partner with the Tribal Education Department and families to improve attendance and reduce truancy, especially in middle school and high school. That is something I think we're just now starting. We're just, my tippy toes in there. We're also strengthening our partnership with the Pinyon Project to provide additional support to students who are truant. Partner with the Tribal Education Department and families to support students experiencing discipline issues and suspensions. And we were currently going to really work on that, and then pandemic. So it's coming.
It looks like you missed one that I just think some of the parents might.
Did I?
Yeah, the special education one.
Oh, the parent percentage of Native American students identified for special education over the past year has been reduced 42% in 2020 to 38% in 2021. You're right. Thank you.
Question?
Well, and no question as much as a comment, when I'm working with a lot of the parents on the truancy, one of my biggest problems is I don't feel safe sending my kids into Cortez because it's not a safe environment because they're not wearing masks. Our community has lost several people that have died from COVID. We've got several people that are still vulnerable from COVID. And I don't blame them. I'm sorry. I'd be scared to death to have my kids come to this school too if I come in and I see everybody without masks. And I've had a lot of people die.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's going to help, not completely, but on some of them, is when I can say, yeah, that school is safe. I can't say the school is safe.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that I've come from the same environment. So I've seen, when I was the superintendent of my last job, I had, there was a lot of deaths around me from COVID, and it's terrible. And I don't want one death, you know, it's terrible. And so I understand your concern.
And I'm not necessarily someone that believes in mandates, but it might be helpful if we could get the educators and the people to understand what that is doing as far as scaring the heck out of people and having no kids come here by not doing a simple act like wearing your mask.
And that will affect the data next year. Definitely. I have talked to families that say, I'm not sending my child. I'm not going to send them because they're not wearing masks. I've heard that mostly from the elementary kids, the families of elementary students. So the absences are piling up. The zeros are getting in there, and you know, what can I say? You know, sorry.
Well, and there's a population of kids that aren't vaccinated.
Do we have a comparison, say like maybe a 3-year, I mean, up to see what kind of percentage it is that they're truant? Say from the COVID year, this year, last year, the year before.
I don't think so. I don't think we've, do we? Have we? No, I don't think we've done that, no. No. But that's good.
And can I add, like, with masks, I have, you know, my 2 children, and I went to his physician and got a note from his physician that requires masks around him at all times from everybody. And like I mentioned before, his principal has written back, said that the staff does comply, yet the children do not. And I have to send my child to school because not only do we have to follow, you know, Colorado law, we also have to follow truancy laws with the tribal council. So some of us do not have the choice but to send our child to school. And when I have things like this sitting in my hand from a physician saying that my special needs child, there needs to be masks around him at all times, I don't know how far that goes. Whereas my tribal council, my tribal, you know, is all on mask mandates. But when you come up here, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, understand. True. What training is the district planning to provide to staff to improve our services and support for Native American students? Historical trauma training and understanding historical trauma and role it plays in supporting students' educational engagement and success will be provided throughout the year. Orientation for new staff. All new staff receive an orientation to Ute Mountain Ute history and culture utilizing the PBS Colorado History Program that was produced with the Ute History Museum as part of new employment orientation. We're working on identifying a similar resource for Navajos and then history culture. I don't know if that was done last year, but I know that I've included some of that this year. All new staff receive a guide to building cultural awareness with American Indian Alaska Native Resources by SAMHSA, CDC, and Indian Health Services. I have that guide. I just saw it. It's really cool, but it's this big, and we need it this big. Okay. PD academies on equity. Teachers have the opportunity to identify needs for further training, start and participate in equity-focused book club discussions or receive additional training on equity and education.
I would like to ask on this orientation for new staff, is that something that the board can also be made aware of? That we can,
You need to participate in it?
yeah, to like have that literature,
Yeah, I can probably, yeah, I have
if it's online or
I
something.
have a slide presentation.
Okay.
I haven't put any words to it. I just present it personally, so
Oh, and maybe the
that's all I have.
presentation, maybe.
Is it
just the
possible
word
in
presentation.
January for you to present it because we'll have a new board.
Yeah, I can probably do that.
And you
Do
also,
a work study,
Set that up. The work
add it to our
session.
work study.
Terry, I also, I'm thinking, it doesn't have to be once a year. It could be throughout the year,
Yeah.
time to time, because long as it changes.
Right.
So
I was
we always
thinking
encouragement.
with the new board coming on, we've got 2, possibly 3 new board members. And then maybe at the beginning of the school year, we'll do it again and just kind of do an ongoing thing. Remember, I'm only president for another month. So
Well,
I can get it.
I
can get it
didn't know
going.
that.
I can get it going. And you know that I'm always available for you regardless. So.
Okay.
also there's a fourth grade curriculum that is mandated, correct?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
We adopted that in
Yeah.
every building.
So I was just letting these guys know if they wanted to, I mean, they should have all the materials, I think.
Right.
And about all the
It would just
resources.
help us as a
Right,
board.
right. And that was
have the
mandated and,
information.
good group of people that put that together, so.
I guess I just have some questions with you guys voting to oppose the principles of critical race theories. And in that you assert that race is you don't want people teaching that assertion that race is the most important identity, the assertion that group identity is more important than individual identity, and adversary characterization of individuals as oppressed or oppressor according to the race. How are you guys going to teach Native American and kids cultural identity and have books that discuss history and stuff with this? I'd like to see the correlation of how you're doing that.
It's very easy. We're saying that we're not going to teach that one section of people are superior to another section.
Right.
We are all equal, but we all have different cultures. We will teach culture. We will not teach superiority.
We're not taking that out of the curriculum. We're not taking stories and history out of the curriculum. We're not taking ethnicity or different stories from the past out of the curriculum. That's not what we're doing. What we're saying is
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
What-
We're just
what-
saying that we're not, and I say we, but understand I'm not an Anglo person, but we're not saying that one section of people are more superior.
Right.
And then we're not gonna, so from
That's the
our
only thing that we're
perspective,
doing now.
from what I understand, when we wrote the resolution, it's to ensure that we're not teaching one thing or the other that we're picking and choosing. We're teaching the facts of history.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to articulate. And I understand the fear because there is no way that we're going to scrap stuff that have happened in the past, because we're very proud of our past. And we also have a very awful past that has to be articulated so that we can learn from the past, live today, and then look for the future.
Right. So there's no
And
hiding the past.
There's no hiding the past, and there's no
past.
rewriting the past based off of what someone feels or thinks.
Right.
And so, to be very clear, like the historical trauma and what happened in boarding schools and what's being unveiled right now about Fort Lewis and what's being unveiled right now about, boarding schools and what happened to kids and families and kids that just disappeared. Those are things that need to be talked about.
Right.
Because I have a lot of friends who are Native American, and granted, I just moved to town, but I'm from Northern Arizona. And that's just a little, toss of a rock right over there. And the stories of my friends and my peers who grew up in these situations or who were bused to Utah, well, they weren't bused, but they went and lived with Utah families and were taken away from their families. It's stories that need to be shared.
Right.
Because there's a reason why I can't tell you how many parents who are afraid of filling out those surveys. And they are afraid of either having kids go to school on their own land, you know, like, so I lived in a border town as well. Like, I was a principal on tribal land, but I also was a superintendent, but I also was a superintendent on borderlands where many Native kids came and traveled tremendous amounts of time to be taught in border because they didn't trust the BIA.
Right, and I just wanted to be clear
And
with
so-
them opposing the critical race
Right.
theory, what that really entailed as far as
Right.
us as Native Americans.
Right,
Because we know what the non-Native Americans seem to think that means,
right,
but I want to be clear as to what that actually means is going to be taught in schools.
right.
So thank you.
Well, and it's fair.
Thank you for asking that question. How can families and community members help? Support our youngest student in the building, a foundation for success in school. Reading to children at home is so important. I don't know if any of you got all the backpacks for school, but there was a book in every one of them. And they were approved by me. So they were fun and they were, you know.
So they were fun.
One of my favorites was called Two Old Women, and that was about me. Enrolling students in preschool, participate in the PAC committee, support students in improving attendance, ensuring students are in school every day and on time. Every single minute counts. And I said that, we said that the other day, Alicia and I. The student said, I need a note to be late. You're gonna be on time, go, you don't need a note. Okay, yeah.
I was gonna add in control your children's video habits, the time they spend on computers and video games. I mean, I have parents sit there and say, well, he was up all night playing video games. Really? Why the hell are you letting him play video games all night?
Amen.
You know, when I was a
I don't
kid,
want to change.
I was limited on TV. Now we need to limit them on phones and video games.
I got something to say with Pete said, you know, my son, he is a special needs and stuff like that, but with nowadays with the tablets and the games and stuff like that, my son has excelled with his education, you know, with his video games, the tablets that he gets on to play on, because, you know, I try not to make my kids grow up so fast, because, you know, at home, when I grew up, it was okay for kids to have babies. You know, it was okay, you know, grandma said, okay, it's okay, you know, oh, good, I'm gonna be grandma, stuff like that, you know, growing up. That's how I grew up, you know, having the kids grow up ahead of time, you know, instead of being kids, you know. So I teach my kids, all my kids, I tell them, you know, it's okay, play video games, have fun, be a kid, you know, you don't have those responsibilities till you're older, you know, because, you know, like I said, you know, my oldest son right now, he's 24, graduated with this BA in Los Angeles Film School. He graduated, you know, and he's a product of where I teach. You know, we sit down with them every night, dinner table, talk to them about how their day was, how school was going, you know, because that's how I was taught when I was growing up. You know, so, you know, like I said, you know, there is good and bad.
Oh, yeah, there's no one size fit all, but I mean, if you got, I've seen children where if the parents say, hey, let's go blow candles off on your birthday cake, and they take the video game away, they start throwing a fit. There's a problem there. Or if they say my son was up till 2, or I've had students say, I'm just so tired because I was up all night playing video games. There's a problem there. I mean, there's a reason that the people that design video games and design this equipment won't let their own children use it. You know, but you're right, it can be, especially for someone that's autistic. I've got a son that's autistic. It's a good way for him to communicate and experience the world in that, but we also got to be careful. I mean, like I said, when I was a kid growing up, I can remember my parents saying, get off that TV, you're gonna read a book. Get off that book, you're gonna go outside and play. You know, have well-rounded experience.
And it goes back to like how you said that too, but my daughter, you know, my daughter likes to draw. She likes to draw a whole bunch. When she was in Mesa, you know, she drew a lot. She drew a lot in school and stuff like that. And, you know, my dad, he's a real good artist, Leon Collins, he always sells his drawings all over the place. You know, so, you know, and I encourage her to draw like that, be like this, be like the grandpa. If you want to draw, do it, that's what you want to do as, you know, whatever life she might have, she might be a great artist or whatever. But in Mesa, they discouraged her. They told her, don't bring those art stuff to school. Don't be doing that. You leave that stuff at home. You know, so it really discouraged her a whole bunch. So me and my wife thought, okay, well, we're going to switch schools because all my kids went to Mesa. They're all were in student council. You know, Mr. Lehman was one of the ones who, you know, was with most of my boys, you know, and then I moved to Kiva with my daughter, and in Mesa, she wasn't doing too good educational wise, but when I moved her to Kiva, they encouraged her drawing. They told her, keep doing it, you know, as long as you do your work, if you do your work, you can do these extracurricular activities. And right now she's excelling. She is excelling in her education because they let her be like Native Americans. We all do kinds of stuff like that, art stuff like that, to encourage them to keep going, keep doing that kind of stuff. You know, is what you guys need to do is encourage them a lot, because you say that we're falling behind. All these graphs that you guys are showing us says that our kids are doing good, but they're going to school. You look at the attendance things, they're all up 95 percentile. So it's not with the kids, you know, that they're doing their part by coming to school, because we have to, you know, but, and it's got to come back to the other side, on the other side, with the teachers and the educated people should be reasonable with the kids that come from other places, you know, learning, like you said, the trauma stuff. You know, it does really hurt us a lot. We can't trust. There's a lot of mistrust with the Montezuma County and the tribal people down there. There's mistrust, you know, like you said, we gotta work together, you know, and that's why, you know, it's the first time I see these guys here, you know, because I've been coming to, me and my wife have come into these meetings a lot, you know, and so we try to come, because we want to represent not only our kids, but other kids too, because we see them failing, you know, so we try to be here for the kids and stuff like that. I'm happy these guys showed up, my councilman, you know, says, okay, we've got to start. There's got a point where we got to all start at the beginning again to work together as people, you know, to come together as one. You know, sometimes, yes, we're going to bicker. We're going to bicker. That comes with life. You know, if life was easy, everybody be happy, everybody be rich, everybody be educated like that. But life's not like that. You know, so we just got to learn how to get along together, fix things that are better for our kids all together. Like I heard this one say, kids don't know racism or anything like that. It's taught to us. It's taught. Young kids play with each other. Colored kids, white kids, Native Americans, Mexicans, all play together. We're not like that. How we're taught that. You know, I learned that the other day when we had that other meeting when that doctor stood up, the physician stood up and started talking about how racism is a disease. You know, it is. You know, and that's a doctor talking. You know, and I always thought to listen to your educators, listen to them that are educated, because they know what they're talking about. You know, but sorry for going.
Appreciate it. Oh. Where are we? Support students academically, participate in parent-teacher conferences, participate in parent engagement, academic activities. And to top of that, one of the things I ask students that I talk to is, who's your support system? Who's there for you? Who's got your back, right? Are your parents there for you? Is grandma there for you? Or are you on your own? And a lot of times they're on their own. Got nobody taking my back right now. And those are the ones that I think I just want to grab them and take them and do something where they know that they're being supported. So the support system is so important. Parent-teacher conferences, even if you go and your kid's a straight A student and you go and you just say, hey, we have nothing to say to those parents, like, thanks for coming, but they want to hear why their students are good. Why is my student good? And then the kids that are failing the class, it's not, F isn't a permanent grade. It always can go up, always. You know, I got my kids to say that 0 is a placeholder. They didn't even think of 0 as 0 anymore. It was just a placeholder to move forward. So engagement and academic activity is so important. So that's one of the questions I always ask my students, and I ask them now. Is that it?
I have a suggestion. Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, is there any way that would help kind of help with these meetings to find out if the parents are interacting with their students' education. If we had some kind of a graph as well, how many parents are participating in their conferences? So then if they're not, then you can maybe have some kind of a hearing or something like, if we're not going to get you to help, engage in your child's education, or you might get a lot of them and they'll go, wow, look how many parents participated and now we're saying things going up, or just kind of have like just a starting point of maybe tracking some of that.
You're referring to specifically parent.
Yeah, the parent-teacher conferences.
I know that we used to, at the middle school, when Jamie was the principal, we had a chart, and even at the high school, they didn't require it, but I always had my parents sign in. I always had them put their name and then their student and then their grade, because I was I taught 9 through 12. So that is possible, but it's not required.
Right. But I just didn't know if it'd be a helping point, like a starting point to find out how many parents are. I mean, we've got the survey that more than, oh my gosh, from 29 to over 100.
Yeah, 29 to 164.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was pretty impressive.
And a lot of it is the trust issue. And a lot of times, I got a different phone. I asked the district to get me another phone because parents don't want to answer the district phone. It's got a negative connotation to it. When you get a call from the district or from a building that says MCHS or CMS or whatever, there's a negative feeling. It's like you get this queasiness in your stomach that whatever's coming is going to be negative. So I asked the district, can you get me another phone? So I use this phone. I get so many calls. I can get calls that people call me. One person said, this number keeps calling me. Who are you? So, just that trust and the fear that my child's going to be held in a negative manner. The way that we talk to parents is so important. The way that we say, I'm making a courtesy call. I'm worried about so-and-so because I noticed blah, blah, blah. There's nothing wrong. I just want you to know I worried. Hang up. And then later on, when you call again, they're going to trust you because you were concerned about their child. And then you can say, you know what? So-and-so has 59%. Can you talk to him or help me? Help your child, because I know that can get up higher. But if you help me with that, I know we can do it together. And so it's building trust from that phone call or that postcard. The high school has postcards and you can send it to any child. And I just randomly pick a child and I send it. And I know Mr. Chandler did that in his classes too. And he sent them out to the parents. And then when he looks in the class, some of those are bookmarkers in their books that they got from their parent and they use it at school. It means something. It means something. So the communication needs to be positive, little increments at a time, and then building that trust. And then eventually that number is not going to be associated with anything negative. It's going to be, oh, that's my science teacher. Pick it up and talk. It takes time. I've learned that trial and error. When I was teaching at Aurora, I called a parent. I told her to come on over. She's African-American. I had no idea that was like, I'm coming over and I'm going to, I didn't know I said something bad, but I learned the hard way. So with our Native American parents, I haven't heard one parent say, yeah, my child is this. I haven't. But when you ask them, I want my child to do well and I want him to graduate. That's what I hear. So when we think that kids aren't working and they're not doing anything, they don't care, it's the different story on the parents' end, different story coming in from where their home is. So that's what I'm learning, that it's a little increment at a time, and it's one little card or one little note or one little sticky note on the book. It's steps that create trust. There's no trust. And that's the part that I really emphasize with our new teachers that come in. Take some time, to build that relationship. When you build a relationship and trust comes in, then everything else will follow. It takes time. So that's kind of what I tell the new teachers, and that's how I work the phones. So that's kind of my secret now. I gave it all away. Okay. So that's what I mean by participate with the family, and it has to come from our teachers. And I'm starting with the new ones, the new team. We had 10 this year. So I don't know how many teachers are in the district, but at least 10 know. So that's it. I think we're done unless there's any other questions.
I do. I just want to remind everyone that we're trying to be making proactive stance by actually bringing some of our students on a reservation and also comply with the rules and what's going to take place with the students in RE1, trying to make it comfortable so they can feel themselves to whatever situation they may drawn to, instead of bringing them here and then put them in a bright light and then give them heck. But technically, we're trying to do different ways to help our students to overcome whatever ordeal is. Most important thing, the foundation, family. We're all different in different ways, but the most important thing is we're all going to achieve education. So that's just my thoughts. I and Amelia and the rest of the staff are including, as well as my vice chair and council and chairman. We're doing the best we can, what we're at. And sometimes not only that, the COVID playing its role, mass dating and other ventures that we're going through. So the most important thing, we're going to get through this regardless, and we're going to all do it together. So that's my thoughts.
You know, I learned when I was teaching that parents, when their kids hit middle school, when I first started teaching was junior high, but middle school, and they go, oh, I can go back to work. I can have my life now. And they choose the most critical time of a child's life. And the child feels deserted when their parents do that, because they're going through so many hormones and so much that they need their parents as a sounding board. And that's why we see so much failure in the middle school, because parents think of their kids more as growing up and as a young adult, and they're back in kindergarten because their hormones are raging and they don't know where they're going and they don't know what they're doing, and they just need more love at that age than any. And they're so unlovable. I love seventh grade, but they can be pretty unlovable at that age too. But I just want to say that I just think that once they hit those teenage years, it's so important to just surround them with love. That's just me coming as a teacher. I'm sorry.
All right, well, thank you. That we have, at the end of our presentation, we have contact information for all of us here in the district office, Superintendent Vanderway, Assistant Superintendent Liz Richard, myself, obviously Amelia Jo Chandler, who's playing a huge role for us now, Trina Lee with DLL Services, and then our teacher support coaching, Cynthia Hopp. She was not able to be with us this evening. So this is contact information. You can really get a hold of any of us at any time. And you know, we want to work with you going forward for sure. I think we discovered and a lot this evening. And I think there's a lot of place for us to grow and be better with this work for everybody. So thank you very much. That concludes our presentation this evening. And if there's any further comments or questions, please.
I would like to review real quick, the letter that came from the K-12 Education Department, along with input from the Tribal Council. I'll skip the first one because that's going to might be lengthy, but and then Amelia, you answered this for me. Develop a plan to assist students with transitioning to elementary, middle, and high school and college. So we're working on that one. We would like to be more involved with the district when they have professional trainings. When we have trainings, we invite the district. We give them special invitations, and actually the principals let the staff come down when we have those trainings. So gifted and talented program. So I showed this to Amelia. I was going through some old files, and this is what I found on gifted and talented. And like Leland, your daughter, the artist, she being gifted in town for what it sounds like. But how do you test art? How do you test music? We don't know anything about this program. We've asked and asked for 4 years now, just detailed information. I mean, there's nothing on here that's worth put on paper. I mean, I don't know the categories. How are they tested? I mean, I know we have more gifted kids. I know we have a lot of kids down there that sing, art, intellectual, whatever. Yeah, so that's one thing we've asked for I don't know how many years now. And we do want to celebrate. We always have celebrations. There's always good things that do happen. We have increased our communications with all the school principals. That's helped us a lot. We've had school, like principals, vice principals, come down to Toyoak to visit families and to also go to our meetings. San Juan Bosie's, they've come down, I think 3 times now to help out to do the sped testing because the parents, didn't have a vehicle or couldn't make it up there. So they've made arrangements in our building. And then a huge one is having Amelia on board. That's really helped me out a lot too, to bounce off ideas, and a kid will come in and see us both at the table and they're like, oh, what did I do? I'm like, nothing, just sit down and we want to talk to you. So now they see us coming, they're not so worried. And then I wanted to pass this out. It's another thing we would like to have included in the next IPP. This goes off with what Chairman Hart stated before. The vocational programs is not in this. It's in the 2005 and 6. We really like to see that be separated again, like what courses are offered at the high school. Is it PCC, agriculture, tech? There's so much the high school does offer. And on the second page, they even have it down, Ute, Navajo, other Native American, Asian, Hispanic, and white.
There's an extra one though.
And that information I can also give to our higher ed director too. That would help him. He was asking about the classes, so I sent that out of the handbook. So we would like to have this included. But the biggest issue we have, which happened today, is there a plan in place for the RE1 district when it changes to remote learning? How are we going to reach out to our special ed children? That was a huge issue last year. We didn't give them the services they deserved, I felt. And these other kids who are playing games, or I was counting, we have 8 staff in the K through 12, 3 only go into the schools. There's 2 drivers, there's a receptionist. We have 2 that are in the KCA school. So there's 3 of us right now. And when I started, we had like 15 staff. So that's how far we've dropped in staff. So we want to know, is there a plan? Where can we find that plan? That was asked for me to put in a letter. So I don't know if you guys, what we're going to do, or.
Well, all of our administrators are communicating with their staffs.
Okay.
And similar to what we talked about at the previous meeting, they all have their plan, and they will communicate it to all the kids. So that doesn't necessarily come from us, because it's like the high school has the way that they're set up and the mid school has the way that they're set up. But we have plans because we've been preparing. Will it be perfect? Absolutely not. Digital learning is not the way to go. Like for me, I want my kids in school. It's not only about, so I love talking about academics, but where it all starts is like you have to create, it's almost like a spider web. You have to create a web for kids to fall into when times are tough. And that web is developed of teachers. It's developed with parents, family members, community members, their peers. When they're not with us, we can't see what they need. You know, we have a lot of socio-emotional needs. We have a lot of ACEs needs. We have a lot of moving parts when it comes to developing relationships. And for a kid to learn, like, in my opinion, well, from my knowledge base, for kids to learn, they have to start with trusting their teacher, and they have to start with trusting the people around them. If they don't trust you, they can't learn. And digital learning is really hard to create a relationship, like face to face, when you're on, let's say, Google Meets or Schoology. But we are in a space that we've had such a spike this week, and with this cold weather,
Right.
like we have no other alternative from a health and safety perspective.
Right.
So who's gonna be manning the phones tomorrow when the parents start calling in to see what they need to do and get information?
Oh, well, the schools will be, you know, they'll be guided to their schools.
Because I know when I try to call a lot of times, and I've had a lot of the parents tell me, we've tried to call, but we get press this, press that, press this, press that. And finally we just get frustrated. I felt like that too, you know, especially don't tell me you care about me if you're having me press all these numbers. So, I mean, we're in a critical situation, so there should be some kind of setup to help, not just, I mean, all these children and all the community. You're gonna have a lot of community parents, and they're gonna say, why in the hell can't we get a hold of somebody? Do you have something in place where you've got a team that can man that phone and say, let me, at least if nothing else, say, let me get back to you and let me find out for you. Because right now you're gonna have all your teachers
Well, I know
in places, right?
And we've been, so we just called it off late this afternoon.
I know.
And, you know, so I've been on the phone a bit just because there's a lot coming in right now. You know, and it's a valid point.
You know, I mean, when that shooting happened or the gun incident happened, I was impressed. I was able to get a hold of somebody that could get information to me in that. This is a serious thing too. So I mean,
It's very serious.
I think in any case like this, there needs to be something set up to where the parents, where there's some kind of incident post. Does that make sense to you guys? The parents are gonna wanna know. And I know it's a hard thing to deal with in that, but the last thing when you're panicked in that you need to hear is push this button, because you just pushed my damn button. So.
Representative.
Yes, sir.
I just want to add, since we may go in online, it's, we're hiring some navigators, I think 4, correct me if I'm wrong. And and what the navigators are going to do is to help the young folks to understand the surface and to make them understand the assignments. And we're still working on that plans on the education part. We're getting prepared in case we do have a major outbreak, COVID. So we don't want to leave our young folks wondering how to run the surface or the password or play games. So we're taking a fair step forward to make sure that our little ones understand surface and understand assignments. And so that's in progress right now. And I just wanted to put that a note for everyone to understand that.
So you're having those people put in place to get information from our district so that they can.
Yes.
Okay, so are they going to have trouble trying to get information from our district is what I'm worried.
No, I think it's in early stages and we're going to get that information so we know what we're dealing with, because it's coming from the district and we got to make sure we're going to be comply with the district's needs.
Yeah, that's
for the curriculum. So that's one plans that's going forward as we speak. And it's just in the early stages, but I'm hoping by the end of the week, we'll have our selected for the navigators. So that's the primary role that they'll be doing. And Tina is well aware that we're trying to make some plans that are gonna prepare ourselves for that time and need.
And Lindra, if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were also talking about using the rec center as a hub for distant learning and separating that socially distance and having the kids sit in there and then having their navigators go around and,
Yes.
sort of tutor them as they go through. That is one plan I thought was really good.
Yes, so like I said, it's in a early stages, but we're making that mark and making that benchmark so it can become reality, so we can not make our young folks be lost in the assignments and so forth. But right now, we're dealing with the Wi-Fi and it's been terrible down there. And so we're trying to find better, accommodate our students and especially the guardians and the young folks, not understanding the curriculum and not understanding the ways of the
Technology, yeah.
So again, we're taking action and taking stance. So I just wanted to bring that up as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So my biggest takeaway from this meeting is that we're going to meet and work together and figure out how we can proceed correctly. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if there's parents you can't get a hold of them that, because sometimes their phones are out or they change phone numbers and that. I think you guys know by now, just send me a list and what you need to. And I love going out throughout Toyoak. I get to meet all the new dogs. Now I get to meet all the people. I mean, it's really nice. It's really fun. So,
You get to see different land too.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, the Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Council has a position letter that was supported. And I would like to read that position letter to the board, as well as to the administration and to those that are listening. We would like to bring to the attention of the school board that we are very lucky we didn't lose any of our students or staff's lives to COVID-19. We also had 2 of your school board members resign from the school board. So now you have 2 vacant positions on the school board. So if we are truly looking at where we are at now, and with the increase of positive cases in the Montezuma County and within the RE1 school district, the announcement that came out today with school closures starting tomorrow up to November 8th of next month, we eagerly wait for next month in November for our children from age 5 to 11 years old who will start the vaccination and get vaccinated to get to our point on where we are at and what is our request from the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe to the RE1 school board through our joint IPP meeting tonight. From the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, we have around 294 enrolled Ute students. Total for the Native American students is around 733 students. 1/4 of the student body is Native American. Total students in the RE1 school district is around 2,779 students. The student ratio is 15:1 per classroom. The teachers employed is about 178. We know there is a lawsuit a while back to have district change so that there may be a person from our district to run for the school board, which has happened, and the current process is not in the best interest of the tribe. We do not have a tribal member sitting and giving the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe a voice at the school board level. We would like to have a voice on the decisions made in the RE1 school district on behalf of the Ute Mountain Ute tribal children. We want a representative from the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe to sit on the RE1 school board. Recently, we heard that the RE1 school district was going into a four-day school year starting January 2022. We are requesting a bus route that meets the needs of students to get to their school buses, a route that goes through the community of Toyoak. We think that the state of Colorado needs to start legislation to have our RE1 school district be a starting point for a Colorado statewide youth curriculum in the 4th grade under the IPP Indian Policies and Procedures relating to Indian children, 20 USCA Statute 7704 under subtitle in general, subtitle 2, Indian tribes are afforded an opportunity to present their views on all programs and activities, including to make recommendation on the needs of those children and how the local educational agency or school district may help such children realize the benefit of such programs and activities. Number 3, parents and Indian tribes are consulted and involved in planning and developing such programs and activities. So our question is based on this statute. How can RE1 school district go into these decisions without consulting with the Ute Mountain Ute tribe? We can work towards a better and brighter and safer school district if we work together for the future of all children's education. As the Ute Mountain Ute tribe are a great resource and a great partner. Thank you on behalf of the Ute Mountain Ute tribe and the Ute Mountain Ute Tribal Council.
I tried to write everything down. We are not sure that we're going to go to a 4-day. We are reaching out to the community to find out if that's something. The reason we're doing it is staff shortage. And we don't have enough subs if somebody gets sick. So we're having to look at that, what's best for students. But it will be, we will be reaching out to community members, and we will probably be calling you at some point and setting up a date where we can meet with you and with the whole tribe, and then see where they want to go with it. We want all input. So, but I do agree with having the bus route go through the community. I also agree that we do need to have some curriculum, and you wanted it 4th grade. And I hope that you understand that I'm going to try to keep you involved in decisions. So please bear with me, call me. You all have my number. I know because all of you have called me at different times, and I want to, it's important that we work together, and we need to not go through another year. So.
Would you mind sending us that letter electronically?
Sure.
Because I received this one earlier today, but if I could get that, then I can tear it. Tear it. Oh,
I have one.
okay.
So I will bring it in. Well, you scan it.
Why don't you just give it to me and I'll scan it and then.
Okay, I will do that.
That work?
Because I started to say I have a new printer, but I haven't hooked it up to my,
Okay.
I have a
I'll
new
take
printer,
care
but
of
I have not hooked it up to my computer yet, so I don't know how it scans.
President Wright, I believe the curriculum was adopted already.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a
So
4th grade curriculum.
I thought so, but I was going to check on it.
Yes.
You would know at this
you
point more
history.
than me.
The
Yes.
youth mountain history curriculum book.
Could I add on to that a little bit?
Certainly.
Of what the Vice Chairman mentioned in the letter. Achievements and measurements are great to utilize, but as the presentation was done today, there's different measurement tools, and they don't all, they vary.
Right, yeah.
So we have to have something that really comes up with a true measurement that we are being more successful. Education is a key component to each one of us in our individual lives. Learning the basic educational core values of life. It's about giving students the support and the curriculum that they can learn from. So we really need to look at where we're going into the future. I would also recommend that the PPI or the IPP, Indian Policies and Procedures, not only meet just annually, but even do it semi-annually or quarterly, so you can get better input as a representative from District D and as the superintendent for the RE1 school district and the school board and the liaison. It'd be good as we start, and I think that was the original intent from the CSC when Yolanda and I originally started that with the task force, and then it eventually became the Community Support Committee, the CSC. That's how that has started. The original idea of that was to reach out to the school district, to have them come down to Toya, whether you're principals, staff, teachers, administrators, school board, come and learn about who we are. That way you better utilize and try to create a curriculum that really best meets the needs. I did talk to the state of Colorado Education, CDE, today, and they said that we haven't adopted nothing for Ute Mountain. There's only 2 tribes in the state of Colorado, Ute Mountain Ute and Southern Ute,
Right.
that are federally recognized in the state of Colorado. We do have the largest population base for native students. And if we're going to start it, then let's start it with this school district here. And that kind of fans out to the rest of the state of Colorado, as we had some legislation introduced on mascots. And I say that because a lot of different schools, whether they're K through 12 or higher ed, really don't understand why this legislation came about mascots and what has negative impacts on Native Americans and what's going on with students that are in the urban area. So they're the ones being more impacted than the ones on the reservation. But here it can start in this school district to move forward in a positive manner. So as we start to work toward a better future from parents, from staff, from council, to create something that's going to better meet the needs. But look at a curriculum that each child is going to be different in their learning curve, with something that fits them so that they can learn, because this is the starting part for these children. Once they become adults, we want them to graduate with all these core values, and especially in financial literacy, that is a key component in their future, because they're going to go into the workforce or they're going to go into higher ed. Once they move into these areas, they're going to have to learn how to take care of themselves, because sometimes their support group might not be there. And that's what we faced this time today, is with COVID, with a lot of people passing away because of something that was unforeseen, things that were not written into legislation or plans that were not made to meet the needs. So we have to look at unforeseen circumstances and take that into consideration. So as we start to look at this, we as Ute Mountain Ute Tribe are willing to sit down at the table, not only at a one-time annual IPP meeting, but maybe a quarterly meeting, and trying to get outreach, and also utilizing History Colorado to help out in the your new teachers coming in, just getting them understanding about Native Americans in general. But just wanted to put that on the table. So we really appreciate tonight's meeting. Thank all of you on behalf of the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe and our 2 liaisons for the education department and our staff. Thank you.
Okay. And so you reach out within the next couple of weeks for us to start working together.
Wonderful.